Chapter 131. Kill him. With an order, the 6 figures swayed, leaving behind afterimages. Their speed was as fast as ghosts, and in the blink of an eye, they were already in front of Jiang Xiu. Ignorant. Jiang Xiu didn't move, allowing the black figure to punch him. However, when it entered his body, Jiang Xiu frowned, revealing a look of surprise. What's going on? He felt that the golden rune ripple had suffered some degree of damage. These people actually had godly power, and this spell seemed to be restricted by the other party's power. This was very rare. Other than thunder spells, it was impossible to break through. When another attack came, Jiang Xiu didn't use the golden rune ripple anymore. His figure also moved. The other party was fast, but Jiang Xiu was even faster. There are no children of God in this world. In the blink of an eye, only their shadows were left in the valley. Jiang Xiu's eyes turned pitch black, locking onto one of the shadows that was moving at high speed. A white light flashed, and before he could even scream, he was already slashed down in the air. Show yourself to this sovereign. Jiang Xiu suddenly stretched out a hand, grabbing one of the shadows that was incomparably fast. Rip. The sound of clothes being ripped continuously entered his ears, and the entire sweater was torn apart. Your body isn't strong. Slash again. Jiang Xiu slashed out again, slicing horizontally. Those black figures seemed to have crashed into the sword light themselves, exploding on the spot. Third slash. Rip. The remaining 3 children of God seemed to have slapped themselves into a straight line, and then were slashed to death by his sword. The 3 of them fell down after a staggered line of blood appeared in the air. Jiang Xiu said, "You can't even withstand a single blow. What other moves do you have?" The one who was dressed like an old landlord completely collapsed, as if he had seen a ghost. Looking at the 6 corpses on the ground, his legs went soft, and he fell to the ground, unable to stand anymore. You. How did you know where they would appear next? Jiang Xiu said. 5 directions God looming. Elementary Protoss awakening ability. There are a total of 38 positions, and they are repeating the 8 positions back and forth. They probably haven't fully awakened yet, and it seems like their brains aren't working well. They are following the order every time. He walked toward the corpses and pulled off one of the sweaters. Don't look. The landlord cried out involuntarily. Why would Jiang Xiu care about him? When he pulled off the sweater, Jiang Xiu was stunned. He quickly went to the next person and pulled off the sweater as well. Then he pulled off the sweaters of the remaining corpses as well. How could this be? The other members of Bodhi Biogenetics were also horrified. These corpses were either missing arms or legs. Their faces were either twisted or deformed. Some of them were blind, some had no ears, and some had no hair. All of them were deformed. A trace of pity flashed through Jiang Xiu's eyes. What did you do to them? Are these the so-called children of God? The landlord said with a red face. You fought with them just now. Although they are deformed, they have extraordinary strength. That is the strength of God. Jiang Xiu said. If you don't think there is a problem, why did you let them cover their faces? The landlord said. They are just defective products. A complete one will definitely appear. Defective products? Jiang Xiu understood. These people's deformities are not congenital, but acquired. They also understand the meaning of the word gene in Bodhi Biogenetics. You guys are researching the evolution of Protoss genes on them? That's right, Jiang Xiu said. How long have you been researching? The landlord said. More than 100 years. Since the generation of our ancestors, we have been researching. These children of God are getting stronger and stronger. In the beginning, they were weaker than an internal force martial artist, but now, they have awakened the instincts of God. Jiang Xiu laughed. Ignorant. The evolution of Protoss was recorded in the books here. It would lead to death. Even if these people didn't understand, how could they not learn from the mistakes of others? Tell Li Puti to come out. The landlord said. After the ancestor went out, he never came back. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. How could someone who is dedicated to researching the evolution of Protoss genes be willing to give up? If he really did, then everything here would stop. If you don't come out, I will kill you all. From the depths of the valley came a hearty voice, "Ha ha ha." A figure walked out from the valley. Every step he took covered more than 10 meters. It was very mysterious. In just a few breaths of time, an old man wearing white clothes appeared. His hair was disheveled, but his face was rosy and his skin was sparkling like a baby's. Li Puti? Gu Dikang had seen the portrait before. The person in front of him was exactly the same. "That's right, I am Li Puti." The smile on his face was like a spring breeze. His whole body seemed to be shining with light. This was a god standing erect in the east. Old ancestor. The disciples of Bodhi biogenetics were all shocked. Then they all knelt down and saluted. This disciple greets the old ancestor. Whether Li Puti was alive or dead was a mystery to them. In their hearts, they thought that the old ancestor had already passed away. After all, he was almost 200 years old. When a 200-year-old man appeared in front of them, the visual impact was too strong. Li Puti's gaze swept across the scene. Even with his cultivation realm, a trace of bitterness flashed in his eyes. These were the elites of Bodhi biogenetics, and yet, they were all slaughtered by Jiang Xiao. "Your Honor, aren't you being a little too ruthless?" Jiang Xiao said. "I have already made it clear. Anyone who wants to join the military will be crippled by me." These people were so insistent. They even surrounded me? Do you think I have a reason to let them go? Li Puti sighed and said, "I will no longer meddle in the affairs of the Gu family. The disciples of Bodhi biogenetics will also not join the military. Are you satisfied now, Your Excellency? They offended a demigod, and Your Excellency killed so many of them. From now on, our grievances are no more. You go your way and I will go mine." Gu Dikang's face turned ashen. Li Puti's appearance had given him a glimmer of hope, but he didn't expect that hope to be extinguished so quickly and so thoroughly. The guards beside him all had gloomy expressions. Jiang Xiao laughed loudly. "Li Puti, you want to beat me up and leave?" Li Puti said, "What do you want, Your Excellency?" "To kill you." "Ha ha ha." Li Puti also laughed loudly. His scattered hair moved without wind. "Is Your Excellency so confident? Those who kill may also be killed." Jiang Xiao said, "The one who will die will definitely be you. You are too arrogant." "No, you are the one who is ignorant." Jiang Xiao took out a piece of paper and a brush and quickly drew on it. He continuously injected spiritual energy into it, then threw the talisman paper over and said, "You dare to appraise this talisman? If you don't look at it 3 times, you will die." "Ha ha ha." Li Puti laughed again. "You're saying that if I look at it 3 times, I will die. So what if you look at it?" He picked up the talisman paper and glanced at it. He was originally playing it down, but when he looked at it for the first time, the relaxed smile on his face froze. When he looked at it a second time, his face was filled with horror. His face turned completely white, and his eyes bulged. Cold sweat dripped down his body, and he looked like he was about to go crazy. When he looked at it a third time, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood onto the talisman paper, and his entire body fell backwards. How could this be? His body fell heavily to the ground with a bang, and he was no longer breathing. "Ancestor! Ancestor!" The eyes of the people from Bodhi biogenetics almost popped out of their sockets. They couldn't believe it, couldn't imagine it. It exploded, it really exploded. Li Puti, who had stood erect in the east for 200 years, like a god, couldn't even withstand 3 glances of a talisman drawn by this person. What was going on? It was simply miraculous. The landlord hurriedly ran over and helped Li Puti up, only to see his corpse rapidly shriveling up. Jiang Xiao stood with his hands behind his back and said softly, "You overestimate yourself." When the crowd looked at Jiang Xiao again, their gazes had completely changed. It was a gaze that was even more shocked than when they looked at Li Puti, and it was extremely frightening. This person was like a demon god. Jiang Xiao looked at Gu Dikang and asked, "Chief, what should we do now?" "Yue." Gu Dikang's face was pale, and his entire body trembled. He looked at Jiang Xiao and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. At this moment, he was so regretful that even his intestines turned green. Chapter 132. Even Li Puti had been killed by him. Who else would dare to enter his military region? It was over, it was completely over. This time he had really kicked a steel plate. No, he had kicked a bomb and exploded it. The future of the entire military region had been completely destroyed by him. At this point, anyone who wanted to enter his military region would have to consider whether they were stronger than Li Puti, and whether they could withstand the revenge of that devil-like person. Gu Dikang. Hearing his angry shout, Gu Dikang's soul almost flew out of his body. It was as if he had seen a ghost. His heart trembled with fear, and his legs went weak. Seeing Jiang Xiu's murderous aura coming at him, he could no longer suppress the fear in his heart. He no longer cared about his status as the head of the military region, and knelt down with a thud, kowtowing in a hurry. You don't dare anymore? He was truly beaten into submission. With Jiang Xiu's strength, how could he have the courage to resist? He kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. What a joke! If someone wrote a talisman for you to look at, you would die. Jiang Xiu's aura was like a flood as he walked over step by step. In Su Rongji's former residence, I broke the limbs of your guards. Do you admit defeat? Yes. He took another step forward. I defeated Guiyu and retreated from Luwing Gate. Do you admit defeat? Yes. He took another step forward. I slaughtered Bodhi Biogenetics and killed so many people that their heads rolled. Do you admit defeat? Yes, of course I admit defeat. He took another step forward. I killed Li Puti with a talisman with 3 eyes. Do you admit defeat? Gu Dikang desperately kowtowed and said, I'm convinced. I'm not worthy. A person like me who is arrogant, disrespectful to martial artists is not worthy at all. I'm the one who relied on my authority to trample on martial artists' dignity. I beg for Mr. Zhang's forgiveness. Jiang Xiu said. So you also know. Gu Dikang was trembling all over. He didn't even dare to raise his head. Jiang Xiu was too terrifying. He was completely scared out of his wits. Mr. Jiang, I'm not a martial artist, let alone a cultivator. Please spare my life. Jiang Xiu looked at the obedient Gu Dikang and sneered. Weren't you very arrogant when you were in Su Rongji's former residence? Didn't you want me to pay you a visit? What? Can't you show off now? Hearing this, Gu Dikang was scared out of his wits. You're not really going to kill me, are you? Mr. Jiang, please spare my life. Mr. Jiang, please spare my life. When the guards saw their chief kowtowing to Jiang Xiu and begging for mercy, their feelings were very complicated. They had never seen such an ugly side of their chief, who was so dignified and lofty before. It was as if a bottle of mixed feelings had been knocked over. Ironically, when they first saw Jiang Xiu, they didn't take him seriously and treated him as a gilded family member. Jiang Xiu's gaze was sharp. I have never shown mercy to those who offend me. I will only repay them 10-fold, or even 100-fold. However, seeing that you are Gu Shu's elder brother, I will spare your life for now. Phew. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Their lives were saved. When they first heard the first half of the sentence, they were almost scared to death. Thank you, Mr. Jiang, for sparing my life. Gu Dikang felt that his soul had finally returned. He said, in the future, if Mr. Jiang has any orders, the Gu family will definitely do anything for you. He was a shrewd person. Someone like Jiang Xiu would definitely not spare his life for Gu Shu's sake. He needed power in the secular world. In other words, he still needed the Gu family. Well, the Gu family originally wanted to recruit him, but now they had become his lackeys. However, if he wanted to rely on someone like Jiang Xiu, without enough power, he wouldn't even look at him. Ancestor. Watching Li Puti gradually turn into a pile of white bones, the members of Bodhi Biogenetics couldn't help but grieve. Li Puti was their spiritual pillar, the pillar of their faith. His death was not only death, but also the collapse of the faith of these people. How could a deity that had been erected in the East for more than 200 years be defeated by a talisman drawn by Jiang Xiu? How powerful was Jiang Xiu? In reality, it wasn't that Jiang Xiu's current power could kill him instantly. In reality, Li Puti himself was doomed. What Jiang Xiu drew was a heavenly retribution. Li Puti's development of the Protoss gene evolution was against the heavens. He had hurt the heavens and was already intolerable. He should have been punished by the heavens long ago. However, his cultivation was too low to trigger the heavens' retribution. Jiang Xiu's talisman was only to inform the heavens and earth, so that the heavens would know and send down the heavenly retribution early. Before Li Puti received the heavenly retribution, he could actually see the principles of the heavens and earth from the talisman. He knew what the consequences of his actions were, and he also knew in his heart what the consequences would be. In reality, which spiritual cultivation wasn't against the heavens. If your cultivation was high enough, you could withstand it. If your cultivation wasn't high enough, but you did something far beyond your ability, then you definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. To make a Protoss evolve, such a heaven-defying thing could only be done at the Immortal King realm. And the Heavenly Retribution Talisman was a powerful talisman to cultivators. Everyone was afraid of it. Without a good technique to deceive the heavens, one would often be severely injured. Let me ask you, how many of your so-called children of God are there? He didn't want to talk about the person who was dressed like a landlord, but he didn't dare to. There are many more. How many is many? There was a genetic research base in the valley. There were tens of thousands of similar test subjects, ranging in age from infants to adults to the elderly. Some succeeded, but most failed. The 6 people they released to deal with Jiang Xiu were the most successful. Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive. Jiang Xiu was worried that the landlord would do something to let 1 or 2 go. He said, "Do you know why Li Puti is researching this?" The landlord said, "For the country and its people." Jiang Xiu almost laughed out loud. It's because he stopped on the path of cultivation. Later, he accidentally discovered the theory of Protoss evolution. He wanted to research a complete Protoss gene and transplant it into his own body in search of a breakthrough. I can tell you very clearly that this path is a dead end. Apart from bringing disaster, there will be no benefits. Jiang Xiu's gaze swept over the research base. So don't leave a single one here. Don't think that this is his heart's work. We cultivators need to be close to nature, not against it. The landlord nodded. The fire burned everything here. According to the landlord, this place was Li Puti's 100 years of work. Now it was burned to the ground. There were many successful genetic research results here. If taken out, it would definitely be more than half a century ahead of the outside world. After the fire, Jiang Xiu also asked the people of Bodhi Biogenetics to blow up the rocks above the valley and drop them down to bury the ruins of the research base. This was to prevent people from coming here in the future, discovering the research here, and taking this path again. In the depths of Bodhi Biogenetics Valley, Li Puti planted many rare herbs. Many of them were over 100 years old, and some of them had a certain degree of spiritual energy. They could be considered semi-spiritual herbs. Of course, Jiang Xiu didn't hesitate to take all of them for himself. Mr. Jiang. Xie Sanxian and her family came to Jiang Xiu. They were outside and didn't know what Jiang Xiu had done. They only saw Jiang Xiu coming in, and didn't dare to follow. In the end, not only was Jiang Xiu fine, but the people of Bodhi Biogenetics also seemed to be convinced. Now, are you willing to let me treat your illness? Looking at the people around them, even Gu Dikang was respectful to Jiang Xiu. How could they refuse? Besides, they had no choice. Thank you, Mr. Jiang. Take off your coat and mask. The beautiful woman looked around and said, "Can you ask them to leave first?" "You can leave." Jiang Xiu was naturally aware of the beautiful woman's worries. He sent them all out. After they all left, the beautiful woman said, "Mr. Jiang, please be mentally prepared. You might be scared." Jiang Xiu laughed. "What's there to be scared of? If I'm not wrong, your husband should be neither human nor monster. His form is very scary." The beautiful woman and the young girl were very surprised. "Mr. Jiang, how did you know?" Jiang Xiu said, "Since I'm going to treat his illness, how can I have the face to ask if I don't even know his condition?" As he spoke, he had already come to Xie Sanxian's side. He personally took off his hat and mask, revealing a terrifying face. His pupils had turned into the vertical slits of a beast's, and there was fear and inferiority in his eyes. He hurriedly avoided Jiang Xiu. His face had become abnormally dark, and there were even scales on it. Jiang Xiu was sure the moment he saw him. The reason he took the initiative to treat him was because he was very curious. How could a person suddenly evolve into a Protoss? Chapter 133. This was also a major discovery for Jiang Xiu. What could make an ordinary person evolve to such an extent without any divine cultivation method? If it were him, the evolution would definitely be greater. Jiang Xiu needed to ask him properly. He asked, Mr. Xie, when did you start to feel that something was wrong? Xie Sanxian hurriedly covered himself with his cap and mask, but turned his head away to speak. The beautiful woman said, I'm sorry, Mr. Jiang, he stopped talking after his illness. Jiang Xiu said, he didn't speak because even if he did, others wouldn't understand and would scare them. If I'm not wrong, your voice has also changed. It's become like a monster's roar. Xie Sanxian turned his head to look at Jiang Xiu in shock. He finally cried out involuntarily. His voice was like a beast's growl. Although it had a rhythm and characters, it was not human language at all. How did you know? The woman and the girl beside him were shocked. Jiang Xiu said, how would I know? Of course I know, because I know what illness you have. Xie Sanxian said agitatedly, I beg you, please save me. His voice was still like a beast's growl, as if he was speaking a beast's language. Jiang Xiu said, then tell me first, when did your condition start? Xie Sanxian pondered for a moment and said, I'm not sure about the specifics. It all started because of a stone. When it was the size of a goose egg, it was fine to leave it untouched. But when you held it in your hand, it would become hot and strange characters would appear. When I bought it, the other party said it was a rare or that was very attractive. I was a businessman and saw that the stone was so magical, so I bought it. I placed it in my office and would often reach out to touch it. Later, one day, I suddenly vomited blood and went to the hospital. The doctor said I might have been poisoned and my organs were suffering from acute failure. I thought of that stone. After monitoring, it was found to be radioactive. Jiang Xiu said, what about the stone? Xie Sanxian said, at that time, I was very angry and wanted to throw it away. However, I felt that the stone might be useful for the treatment of my illness, so I kept it at home. Mr. Jiang, can I still be saved? The woman and the young girl were stunned. Jiang Xiu could actually communicate with Xie Sanxian, who was fluent in the animal language. The girl couldn't help but ask curiously, can Mr. Jiang understand what my father is saying? Both mother and daughter had a hopeful look in their eyes. Jiang Xiu nodded with a faint smile. The godly language of a low-level Protoss. The majority of the Protoss on the immortal Martial continent were able to awaken this language. Jiang Xiu naturally understood it, and it wasn't difficult for him to speak it. However, if he were to speak the divine language, he would be seen as a monster by others. Can my father still be saved? Jiang Xiu said in his heart. It was impossible to become a god, but what was so difficult about degenerating into a mortal? Xie Sanxian's body was evolving, and his energy couldn't keep up. That was why his body couldn't withstand it. It's not difficult to save him. The three members of the Xie family were overjoyed when they heard this. Jiang Xiu said, it'll hurt a little. Bear with it. He reached out and abruptly tapped the divine essence on Xie Sanxian's forehead, directly destroying it. Ah! Xie Sanxian immediately cried out in pain. His voice was like the roar of a wild beast. To a god elementalist, this blow was fatal. It could be said that he was almost crippled. However, to Xie Sanxian, it saved his life. With his divine essence destroyed, he wouldn't be able to evolve anymore. His condition wouldn't worsen for the time being. The scales on his face exploded with a faint light. This was Xie Sanxian's body's instinctive resistance, but under Jiang Xiu's powerful strength, it was instantly destroyed. However, when the light dimmed again, the scales on his face also disappeared. Although Xie Sanxian hadn't evolved much, he still had some divine power. The next step was to absorb the divine power. The steaming black qi on his body continuously diffused from his body, and was absorbed bit by bit along Jiang Xiu's sword fingers. After the divine power was absorbed into Jiang Xiu's body, It was naturally converted and absorbed by him. Pop pop pop. Borrowing this power, Jiang Xiu took the opportunity to break through to the 32 profound awakening. The divine pattern on his arm slowly formed a 30-second divine pattern. However, this power wasn't enough. Jiang Xiu couldn't let this power go to waste. He immediately urged his qi and blood to forcefully break through. His qi and blood made popping sounds in his body. Forcefully breaking through was still quite dangerous. If he failed, his body would suffer great damage, and he would need a long time to slowly recover. However, if he succeeded, his divine body's potential would be unearthed. Ah! The divine power in Xie Sanqian's body was swept away, and he cried out in pain. His pained voice was simply hair-raising. The mother and daughter beside him were so scared that they trembled. It felt as if Xie Sanqian was about to go berserk. Sanqian. Father. However, Jiang Xiu's finger on his forehead was like a mountain pressing down on his forehead. No matter how hard he struggled on the ground, his forehead couldn't move at all. Boom. The blood particles in Jiang Xiu's body suddenly exploded again, breaking through the membrane wall. Then they suddenly contracted, and the divine power in his body increased by another level. The 30-second divine pattern became clear. This divine pattern was a little long, and completely leaned to the left. It was 3 or 4 centimeters long, and was the longest rune so far. This stroke also outlined the outline of the divine pattern. Unfortunately, Jiang Xiu didn't recognize this rune. Although Jiang Xiu was an old monster who had cultivated for 3,000 years, it was impossible for him to recognize all the characters. Some were created by a small race or tribe, and some were hidden by their race. Jiang Xiu wouldn't be able to recognize such a situation. However, from his cultivation so far, there were 2 possibilities for his race. One was that he was an extremely ancient primitive Protoss, and the other was that he was a completely new Protoss that had never appeared before. Everything was still unknown. After his divine power was sucked dry, Xie Sanqian's pain was also reduced, and he let out a sigh of relief. The mother and daughter nervously asked, "How is it?" Xie Sanqian said, "Much better. When a mortal evolved into a god, all of their bodily functions would change. Naturally, they wouldn't be able to adapt. It was just like how a woman would feel uncomfortable when her period came, let alone when her entire body changed. How could she adapt to it? Now that he had returned, he naturally felt comfortable. However, he didn't know that this was a regression of his race. Dad, you're speaking human language." They suddenly realized that Xie Sanqian's words were human language. Really, Xie Sanqian said a few more words. Although it was very vague, they could vaguely understand. His eyes were filled with ecstasy, and the vertical pupils in his eyes had retreated. Jiang Xiu said, "Your declining organs need to be slowly adjusted. As long as you pay more attention to rest, there should be no problem." Thank you, Mr. Jiang." The family of 3 was deeply grateful. Jiang Xiu said, "No need, Mr. Xie. Give me that stone. It's useless for you." Xie Sanqian had no problem with it. He couldn't agree to any request of his savior, not to mention that harmful thing. He couldn't wait to give it away. He said vaguely, "I don't have that stone with me. It's in my house in Pinghai. I'll send it to your house in the future." Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "No need to trouble yourself. It's best that no one touches that thing. When I'm free, I'll go to Pinghai. It won't be too late for you to take it out then. I'll listen to Mr. Zhang's arrangements." Jiang Xiu was afraid that the stone would cause a second person to become deified. He was also worried that the stone would be lost. Jiang Xiu hadn't seen the stone before, so he didn't know what caused Xie Sanqian to become deified. However, for the current Jiang Xiu, it was definitely of great value. It could even be of great use to his cultivation. Jiang Xiu was very curious. What kind of stone was it that could cause Xie Sanqian to evolve into a Protoss? He didn't seem to have heard of such a thing in the immortal martial continent. However, there were all kinds of strange things in the world. Every place had its own specialties. Just because something didn't exist in the immortal martial continent didn't mean that it didn't exist on Earth. Earth had mobile phones, but didn't the immortal martial continent have them? It wasn't surprising that anything existed in this world. Seeing Xie Sanxian walk out standing, the people outside all clicked their tongues in amazement. They had a new understanding of Jiang Xiu. Not only was this person powerful, but he also had medical skills. Chapter 134. Are you sure it's really Jiang Xiu? He had already escaped from Ninghai City, entered the mountains, and was preparing to cross the national line. The possibility of him coming back was very low. The police officer said, "It shouldn't be wrong." This was a big case that involved Tang Jingping's only son. They tried their best to show their faces in front of the big boss. Jiang Yi and his wife's hearts sank. This was the news they didn't want to hear the most. They knew that once Jiang Xiu came back he would definitely die. "Son, don't come back." Ling Dongcheng was much calmer this time. If Jiang Xiu came back, it was most likely because of Jiang Yi and his wife. In that case, there was no need to rush to arrest him. He might even voluntarily surrender. Organize people to arrest him. Jiang Xiu was most likely caught. The next thing to do was to deal with another matter. Was it an accident or a deliberate murder? Tang Shu wanted Jiang Xiu's life to avenge his son. Not only did Jiang Xiu have to die, but he also wouldn't let this couple off. Then, what he had to do next was to make it a deliberate murder. He said, "You heard it too. Your son is back. You should admit it honestly." Jiang Yi said excitedly, "What do you want us to admit?" Ling Dongqing said, "How you planned it and how you ordered Jiang Xiu to kill Tang Jiming. Don't try to wrong a good person." Ling Dongqing said, "Don't be stubborn. You seem to have forgotten that you still have a pair of good friends, Cheng Hanlin and his wife from the Cheng clan group, and their daughter, Cheng Lingsu. They are now guests at Tang Shu's house." Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling's expressions changed when they heard this. It was as if they had seen what happened 12 years ago happen again. It was exactly the same. At this moment, they felt a great pain in their hearts. Despicable. At this time, Tang Jingping's home was indeed hosting a banquet for Cheng Hanlin's family. Whether Jiang Xiu came back or not, this family was the key. However, Tang Jingping's face was very calm, and no one could tell that his son had just passed away. "Brother Hanlin, it's been more than 10 years since we last met." Cheng Hanlin didn't want to go, but he had no choice but to bring his wife and daughter. Unlike other people who were summoned by the municipal committee, his face was indifferent. The person in front of him was one of the people he hated the most in his life. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have been forced to betray his friends for glory. In the past 10 years, he worked like crazy. It didn't seem like he was earning money, but more like he was trying to make up for the guilt in his heart. Yes, it's been more than 10 years. Tang Jingping's gaze passed Cheng Hanlin and fell on Sun Xiaohong and Cheng Lingsu. Not long after Jiang Xiu left, Cheng Lingsu went back to find her parents. The police also asked her questions and she told them the truth. In fact, Cheng Lingsu was the cause, but she wasn't passive, so she didn't have any responsibility. "Brother Hanlin is really lucky. Your wife is so beautiful. And your daughter is so beautiful. It's really enviable." As he spoke, he asked the servants to pull out chairs for them to sit. "Tang Shu, there's no need to be so polite between us. If there's anything, just say it." Cheng Hanlin was very direct. 12 years ago he was controlled by Tang Jingping because of the Cheng clan. 12 years later, he had nothing, so what was there to be afraid of? Tang Jingping motioned for the servants to open the wine. After taking a sip, he nodded with satisfaction and motioned for the servants to fill their glasses. He said, "Do you still remember what happened 12 years ago? Brother Hanlin promised to help me and let me get rid of Jiang Yi, a strong opponent. From then on, I became an official. Today I'm 45 years old, and I'm an official of the municipal party committee. Soon, I'll be promoted to deputy governor, and I'll have the chance to enter the regular." It was the first time Cheng Lingsu heard about the grievances of the previous generation. Her beautiful eyebrows wrinkled slightly. The information revealed in Tang Jingping's words had a very bad premonition. It seemed that her father had done something wrong to Uncle Jiang. Cheng Hanlin's face became very ugly. He really didn't want to mention this matter again. It felt like a scar that had been healed with great difficulty was pulled open again. Tang Shu invited our family here just to say this? Tang Jingping said. Of course not. I'm just kindly remembering the past for Brother Hanlin. Don't forget what you've done. Cheng Hanlin's face became very ugly. What Brother Hanlin did 12 years ago gave you 12 years of glory. The Cheng clan's real estate gave you both fame and fortune. But unfortunately, you accidentally went bankrupt. But it doesn't matter. 12 years have passed, and the opportunity has come to you again. Brother Hanlin should know what happened recently. Jiang Yi's son murdered my son. Cheng Hanlin also heard about this matter. When he heard the news, he was really shocked. His first thought was that Jiang Xiu knew what happened that year and wanted to avenge his father. As long as your family testifies in court that Jiang Xiu deliberately murdered my son, especially your daughter, I can let the bank give you a free loan. You have the final say on the amount. As soon as he finished speaking, the courtyard under the night seemed to be quiet all of a sudden. Only a few hearts were beating. Cheng Hanlin was in need of funds to make a comeback. Tang Jingping's temptation was just what he wanted. The expression on his face became strange. Sun Xiaohong's eyes also lit up. Cheng Lingsu looked at Tang Jingping and felt a chill in her heart. If it was murder, even if Jiang Xiu's family was not all shot, they would have to spend the rest of their lives in prison. Why? Do you still need time to think about it like last time? Cheng Hanlin moved his lips, but didn't say anything. People were selfish. Under a huge temptation, they would definitely waver. Dad. Cheng Lingsu shook her head at Cheng Hanlin. She couldn't do this. Cheng Lingsu might not be as kind as her sister, but she still couldn't go against her conscience to harm Jiang Xiu's family. Tang Jingping said, Brother Hanlin, you did something like this 12 years ago. Making a mistake once is a mistake. Making a mistake twice is also a mistake. Furthermore, this world has always judged heroes based on success or failure. When you have power and wealth, everyone will respect you and support you. Look at you now. You're like a stray dog, looking at everyone's faces everywhere. They don't care about how glorious the Chung family used to be. Tang Jingping's words could be said to be cutting to the heart. I'll give you a glass of wine to think about it. However, I want to remind you that the Jiang family won't be able to escape this time. Even if you don't help, the result won't change. Cheng Hanlin might not believe it if someone else said this, but Tang Jingping was the deputy governor of Jiangnan and the party secretary of Ninghai City. In addition, he had the powerful Tang family behind him. In Jiangnan, there were very few things that he couldn't do. How much can the bank give me for free? Tang Jingping said. As I said just now, you can decide the amount. This is what Tang Jingping said. If you want more, I can use the family's power to transfer it to you from other cities. Cheng Hanlin clenched his hands nervously, and his eyes turned red. Dad. Cheng Hanlin said. I, Cheng Hanlin, have already gone against my will once. This time, I won't do anything against my own will. Hearing this, Cheng Lingsu breathed a sigh of relief, while Sun Xiaohong had a complicated look in her eyes. Tang Jingping said with a smile, Brother Hanlin, 12 years have passed. You've also been in the business world for 12 years. Why hasn't your temper changed? Do I have to force you? Do you still remember the evidence from back then? I still have it. As long as I take it out, you can't escape from prison. Cheng Hanlin's face suddenly changed. You, Tang Jingping said. Just like before, you'll probably go to prison for 3 to 5 years. His face suddenly turned cold. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. If you want to go to prison, I don't mind sending you to be with Jiang Yi. Cheng Hanlin's face became very ugly. Sun Xiaohong excitedly grabbed Cheng Hanlin's arm. Hanlin, why don't we agree with him? You can't go to prison. If you go to prison, what will happen to us? As she said this, tears fell down. Tang Jingping said, My patience is limited. I'll count to 3. 1. 2. Suddenly, there was a movement outside. A person who looked like a butler ran over nervously and said, Tang Shu, a young man is outside. He said he is Jiang Xiu. What? Tang Jingping stood up from his seat. Why is he here? Chapter 135. Tang Jingping only lost his composure for a moment. Then a strange smile appeared on his face as he said, "Wonderful, wonderful, truly wonderful. Call the police and tell them that Jiang Xiu is here. Also, tell them to bring Jiang Yi and his wife here as well. Let's settle all our grievances today." The man who looked like a housekeeper responded and left. Not long after, a young man walked in unhurriedly. He wasn't as down and out as imagined, nor was he angry. Everything was so calm. When he saw Jiang Xiu, the anger in Tang Jingping's heart rose uncontrollably. It was this person. It was this person who killed Jiming. It was him. Jiang Xiu said, "Tang Shu, aren't you going to invite me to sit?" Tang Jingping sneered. "Sit." After sitting down, Jiang Xiu looked at Cheng Hanlin's family of 3 opposite him. He said, "What a coincidence. It turns out that Uncle Cheng's family is also here. What were you talking about just now? Conspiring? How are you going to set up my Jiang family again?" Cheng Hanlin said, "Minor repairs. Don't misunderstand. They were already sitting in the other party's seat. What was there to misunderstand? In addition, it was too difficult to make people believe what happened 12 years ago. If they really had a firm stand, they shouldn't have come to the appointment. Moreover, if they could do that kind of thing 12 years ago, they might be able to do it again." Tang Jingping said, "There's nothing to misunderstand. Your father-in-law promised me that he would testify against you in court." Jiang Xiu said, "Oh, testify against what?" Tang Jingping said, "Testify that you deliberately murdered my son, Tang Jiming." When he said this, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but tremble. The hatred of killing his son was absolutely irreconcilable. Cheng Hanlin wanted to defend himself. He opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't say anything. The evidence of his crimes from 12 years ago was still in Tang Jingping's hands. With Tang Jingping's current power, dealing with Cheng Hanlin was as easy as crushing an ant. Jiang Xiu glanced at the Cheng family, and then glanced at Cheng Lingsu. Cheng Lingsu avoided Jiang Xiu's gaze and lowered her head guiltily. In her heart, she was saying, "No, it's not like this. He used the evidence of my father's crimes to force my father to confess." However, she also could not say such words. It was disgraceful to frame others just because one did not want to go to jail. Jiang Xiu said, "So you're going to exterminate the Jiang family to avenge your son?" With a bang, Tang Jingping slammed the table and stood up. "That's right. You little bastard. Who do you think you are? You're as cheap as a dog. You actually dared to kill my son. Your cheap life is not worth my son's even if I kill you 10,000 times. I want your family to be buried with my son." Jiang Xiu said, "Really? Then let's see if you have the ability to do so." Tang Jingping said, "Do I have the ability to do so? Then I'll show you the ability of the Tang family." While they were talking, police sirens sounded outside. After a while, they saw the police bringing Jiang Yi and his wife into the courtyard. Jiang Xiu stood up and saw his parents being escorted by the police. A trace of terrible coldness flashed through his eyes. "Dad, Mom, are you okay?" Jiang Yi and his wife shouted excitedly. Lin Yueling even burst into tears. "Son." Tang Jingping couldn't help but applaud. "How touching. The family is reunited. Unfortunately, after tonight, we won't be able to see each other again." Jiang Yi said, "Tang Jingping, if there's anything, come at me. Let my son go." Tang Jingping said angrily, "Let your son go? Are you stupid? This little bastard killed my Jiming, killed my only son. You want me to let him go?" Jiang Yi said, "The child is innocent. He just wanted to avenge his father. All the grudges started because of our generation. That's enough. Don't let it continue to the next generation." "Next generation?" Tang Jingping said. "What next generation? My son is dead. Your son has to pay with his life." Jiang Yi said, "Tang Jingping, I lost. I admit that I'm not as good as you. You're better than me in everything. Let my son go. A lowly commoner like me doesn't deserve to be your opponent." Tang Jingping said, Humph, it's too late for you to know now. Do you know how you lost to me back then?" Cheng Hanlin lowered his head. His hands tightly grasped the armrests of the chair. "It's your good brother. I only used the land of Jiangdong's kerosene village as bait, and he sold you out. Did he tell you that he was bitterly beaten by me, and that his company couldn't hold on? The fool who lied to you. His purpose was to make you think that he was suppressed by me because of you. That way, you would feel guilty and make a mistake. That way, he could collect evidence of you. That way, he could take the land of Jiangdong's kerosene village. Jiang Yi's eyes popped out. His facial features were stiff. No, that's impossible. His relationship with Cheng Hanlin was so strong. He treated him like a brother. The children of the two families even agreed to marry their daughters. Even if they wore the same pants, they would feel disgusted. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. Let him say it himself. Cheng Hanlin didn't dare to raise his head. His whole body was trembling. Such a reaction was equivalent to tacit agreement in the eyes of everyone. Lin Yueling was dumbfounded as well. Back then, Jiang Yi and Tang Jingping were political rivals. Both of them were outstanding. Gradually, they became sworn enemies. When their relationship was at its worst, Cheng Hanlin's company kept causing trouble for Tang Jingping. Lin Yueling and Jiang Yi naturally thought that Cheng Hanlin was implicated because of them. But it turned out that wasn't the case. Tang Jingping continued. Not only that, all of your illegal operations were collected by him. You did it so secretly. Other than Cheng Hanlin, who benefited from it, no one else could find out. Jiang Yi was stunned. It was as though he was struck by lightning. Jiang Yi couldn't figure out how his evidence fell into Tang Jingping's hands. During the years he was in prison, he had been thinking about it. Later on, when he saw the Cheng clan getting better and better, he vaguely sensed it. However, he couldn't be sure. Everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard this. Cheng Lingsu looked at her with disbelief. Why? Jiang Yi roared. Cheng Hanlin, what did I do to you? How could you treat me like this? Cheng Hanlin lowered his head and slowly knelt down. Brother Yi, I'm sorry. I was greedy. I didn't think that things would be so serious. I thought you would lose the qualification to compete with Tang Jingping for the county secretary position. I really didn't expect that he would be so ruthless to put you in prison. I got my retribution. I have nothing now. I only have one life left. If you can't stand it, just kill me. Jiang Yi remembered that his good life was ruined by this person, who was his closest brother. He rushed up and grabbed the fruit knife on the table. But with the fruit knife in his hand, he couldn't bear to do it. Tang Jingping said, kill him. He said you can kill him. Jiang Yi, if you don't kill him, you won't have the chance. He will testify that your family murdered my son. Even if you don't get the death penalty, you will be in prison for the rest of your life. At this moment, everyone was so nervous that they almost stopped breathing. A leisurely voice that was completely inconsistent with the current situation came. No one in this world can put my father in prison. Tang Jingping, you think too highly of yourself. Do you think that you can do whatever you want as the county secretary of Ninghai City with the Tang family behind you? You are still far from it. Can you convict us? Jiang Xiu's words made Jiang Yi calm down. Yes, this case hadn't been tried. Although the Jiang family didn't believe them, he didn't believe that the Jiang family and the Lin family would be indifferent when they were sentenced to death. Seeing Jiang Yi calm down, Tang Jingping frowned. The good show he wanted to watch was interrupted by this guy. He said, Director Ling, invite Jiang Xiu to the room to make a statement. Jiang Xiu, come with me. Jiang Xiu didn't refuse and stood up. Lin Yueling held his hand nervously. Jiang Xiu said, It's okay. Remember what I said? I will make you the most honorable woman in the world. After saying that, he followed Ling Donglai. He had no intention of stopping what was happening here. If his father really wanted to kill Cheng Hanlin to vent his anger, he didn't think it was a big deal. People who betrayed their friends for glory deserved to be killed. The manager outside the door said, Tang Shu, Qin Baichuan is here. What is he doing here? It was Qin Baichuan, the underground boss of Ninghai City. Mr. Qin, what brings you here? Qin Baichuan said, I'm here to support Mr. Jiang. As soon as he finished speaking, cars stopped in front of Tang Jingping's house one after another. The top big shots of Ninghai City got out one after another. Chapter 136. Tang Jingping frowned. Mr. Jiang. He had also heard that there was a Mr. Jiang in Jiangqing who was a big shot in Jiangqing's underworld. He did not care about such a person, and just treated it as an anecdote. He did not take it to heart at all. You're supporting Mr. Jiang. Why are you here? Does he want you to deal with me? Tang Jingping's son had just passed away, and he always felt that his son's death was unjust. He felt that God was unfair. Under such emotions, his temperament slowly became extreme. He regarded everyone as an enemy, and his desire to destroy became very strong. This was also known as antisocial psychology. When an uninvited guest came, his first reaction was to make trouble for him. Moreover, he did not get along well with Qin Baichuan. As soon as he finished speaking, the butler outside said, "Tang Shu Yanmin, President Yan is here." A middle-aged man answered and entered. Tang Jingping heard this and personally welcomed him more than 10 meters away. "President Yan, what brings you here?" Yanmin's water project was the most important thing in Ninghai City. All his political achievements were based on this. Not only was he rich, but he also had foreign technical connections. Yanmin said, "I'm here to support Mr. Jiang." It was Mr. Jiang again. The butler outside said again, "Tang Shu, President Chen of Chen's group." A fat man with big ears did not enter. "Why is President Chen here?" President Chen said, "I'm here to support Mr. Jiang." Mr. Jiang, this Mr. Jiang again. Tang Jingping was angry and amused at the same time. Ignorant people, finding businessmen to pressure the municipal party committee. How stupid. Don't you know that the lifelines of these people are in my hands? You're still far from being able to fight with me. But dripping water could penetrate stone, and sand could become stone. When there were too many of them, it would become terrifying. President Han of Dell Group. President Zheng of Zheng Group. The big shots of Ninghai City entered one by one. Slowly, the look in Tang Jingping's eyes changed from disdain to shock, from shock to fear, and in the end he was in a daze. 17 business bigwigs had come. Those who did not know would think that they were going to hold a meeting of the Chinese Political Consultative Conference. These people controlled almost 90% of the tax revenue of the entire Ninghai City. He was not afraid of any one of them, but with so many of them together, the entire Ninghai City would be turned upside down. President Chen, President Han, let's stand up for Mr. Jiang. Tang Jingping couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Who was this Mr. Jiang? He was so influential that he could invite so many people at once. Tang Jingping knew that even the Ninghai City Committee secretary did not have such great power. It might be possible if he used the power of the Tang family. Jiang Yi and his wife were also shocked. This Mr. Jiang was really amazing. He had not even shown up, but he already had so many big shots at his beck and call. He was really a famous person in Jiangnan. Chung Hanlin and his wife were also shocked. Sun Xiaohong said, "I didn't expect Mr. Jiang to be so influential in Jiangcheng, but he's also the same in Ninghai City. He's really amazing." Chung Lingsu looked at her mother, and her expression became very strange. Others did not know who Mr. Jiang was, but she knew very well. She wanted to tell her mother, "Mom, Jiang Xiu is Mr. Jiang." She knew that Jiang Xiu was very powerful, but she did not expect him to be so influential that he could even summon most of the upper-class people in Ninghai City. Tang Jingping said, "Everyone, I wonder why Mr. Jiang asked you to come here?" Qin Baichuan said, "It's very simple. As long as you admit that your son drowned himself." Tang Jingping's eyes suddenly widened. "What?" Qin Baichuan said. "Didn't you hear clearly? Mr. Jiang asked you to say that your son drowned." Tang Jingping laughed out loud, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. "Qin Baichuan, do you know what you're talking about? How dare you threaten me?" His eyes burst with anger. He had always been the one to threaten others. "So what if I don't agree? You want my son to die without knowing why? You're delusional." Qin Baichuan was about to speak when a voice came from the door. "No one in Jiangnan can go against Mr. Jiang." As this voice came, Wang Xuetong strode in, accompanied by masters like Wang Xueli. When everyone saw them, there was an uproar among the rich and powerful people present. "The head of the Wang family. The Wang family of Jiangnan is here." Tang Jingping's expression changed slightly when he saw Wang Xuetang. The Tang family was one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan, and so was the Wang family. He was just a child of the Tang family, while the other party was the head of the Wang family. The difference in power was undoubtedly one-sided. Wang Xuetang, are you also here to support that Mr. Jiang? Wang Xuetang said. Of course. We'll do everything we can to support Mr. Jiang, even if it's at the expense of our family. Wow. There was an uproar in the room. It was hard to imagine that these words came from the head of the Wang family of Jiangnan. Tang Jingping's expression finally changed. If the Wang family went all out against him, not only him, but the entire Tang family would have to consider the consequences. Do you think the Tang family will be afraid of you? Tang Jingping said. Although the Wang family is one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan, you built your family on martial arts. Don't forget that we're in a peaceful era now, and only official status is the foundation. How can the Wang family fight with the Tang family? A voice came from the door again. What if you count me in? Before the person at the door could be seen, there was an uproar at the door. The crowd moved aside, and their eyes were full of awe. It was as if at this moment, the emperor was the general. Everyone's eyes were focused on the door. Who was it? Tang Jingping was also puzzled. Who could be so imposing? But when the man turned the corner and walked out, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Not only him, but even the servants beside him, as well as Jiang Yi and Cheng Hanlin and his wife, were all dumbfounded. Gushu. The person who came was Gu Deji. In terms of power, in Jiangnan he belonged to the Jiangnan frontier. If Tang Jingping had a pistol in his hand, then Gu Deji had a plain cannon in his hand. How could they fight? More importantly, he was their superior. Gushu, why are you here? Gu Deji said. I'm here to support Mr. Jiang. Shocked, completely shocked. Not to mention Tang Jingping and the others. Even the people who came to support Jiang Xiu were shocked. Mr. Jiang was so powerful that even the Jiangnan frontier was willing to support him. Tang Jingping said. Gu Deji said. Mr. Jiang wants you to say that your son drowned himself. Tang Jingping's face was ashen as he said. Why? I've never seen Mr. Jiang, and I've never offended him. Why did he intervene in this matter? Even Gu Deji had come forward. If he dared to resist, then his career would end there. He didn't know what kind of suppression he would suffer. He might even be sent to prison like Jiang Yi. He became agitated. Who is Mr. Jiang? Who is he? Why is he persecuting me like this? Gu Deji said. You don't even know who Mr. Jiang is? He shook his head. Welcome, Mr. Jiang. Welcome, Mr. Jiang. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in turmoil. Countless eyes looked over. Jiang Yi and his wife, Cheng Hanlin and his wife, and Cheng Lingsu all looked over. Welcome, Mr. Jiang. Even Gu Deji was respectful. He bowed slightly and began to play. When his eldest brother came back, he was filled with regret. He told him that if Li Puti was killed by Jiang Xiu with 3 glances, then Jiang Xiu must be a demigod. Jiang Xiu walked out unhurriedly. Ling Dongcheng, who was next to him, was already pressed against the table. Mr. Jiang. Mr. Jiang. At this moment, Jiang Yi and his wife, as well as Cheng Hanlin and his wife, all widened their eyes. Jiang Xiu was like an emperor. He walked over step by step. All the strong people bowed to him. He walked until he was in front of Tang Jingping. Why did I do this to you? The reason is simple. Because I am Mr. Jiang. Boom. At this moment, it was as if a deep water bomb had exploded in the courtyard. Tang Jingping was shocked beyond words. Cheng Hanlin and his wife looked as if they had been struck by lightning. They were dumbfounded and looked at him in disbelief. Jiang Xiu is Mr. Jiang. Jiang Yi, our son, is Mr. Jiang? At this moment, Lin Yueling's hair stood on end. Hot tears streamed down her face. Our son is Mr. Jiang, the man who made the Jiangnan frontier, and most of the Jiangnan nobles bow to him. Chapter 137. Lin Yueling grabbed her husband's arm and choked with sobs. Jiang Yi was also very excited. How did his son become Mr. Jiang? It was too unbelievable and too exciting. Moreover, he came to the Tang family in such a domineering manner, to the family of the enemy who had defeated his family. He used the same, no, even more domineering means to complete his revenge. His son was too promising. He didn't know what had happened to Jiang Xiu that made him become Mr. Jiang, but no matter what, he was his son. He was Jiang Yi's son. Jiang Xiu is Mr. Jiang? Cheng Hanlin and Sun Xiaohong felt that God had played a big joke on them, especially Sun Xiaohong. This future son-in-law whom she despised and treated as a bug, whom she wanted to throw into a smelly ditch, turned out to be Mr. Jiang, who was sought after by all the aristocrats in Jiang City. So many people wanted to have a relationship with him. At that time, she had racked her brains and kept imagining that one day she would meet him by chance. She didn't expect that he would be by her side. What kind of irony was this? Jiang Xiu said, Tang Jingping, 12 years ago, you set up a trap for my father and put him in prison. You ruined his life, my mother's youth, and my childhood. Today, I'm here to take revenge. Tang Jingping pointed at Jiang Xiu as if he had seen a ghost. You, Jiang Xiu said. No one who offends me, Jiang Luoxia, has a good ending. Your son is just the appetizer. I promise you, your ending will be 10 times worse than your son's. His tone was very calm, but no one doubted his determination. Many people present had seen Mr. Jiang's methods. Some of them even felt the pain. He would definitely kill you and make you regret being born into this world. Tang Jingping said. Do you think they can overthrow me just because they call you Mr. Jiang? Dream on. The Tang family has been in Jiangnan for decades. We're not that easy to deal with. He said this to Jiang Xiu and Gu Shu at the same time. Gu Shu handed a stack of documents to Jiang Xiu. Mr. Jiang, I didn't disappoint you. These are the evidence of Tang Jingping's illegal operations over the years. His situation is more than 100 times worse than your father's. It was basically impossible for the current officials to investigate. Once they did, they would be accurate. Tang Jingping's face turned pale in an instant, and it was getting worse and worse. In the end, there was no trace of blood on his face. You harmed me. Jiang Xiu took the documents and said, Tang Jingping, do you want me to read it out for you? In 1999, you transferred the cement factory to your brother-in-law at a price 10 times lower than the market price. In 2001, you cooperated with the Taihe Group in Hong Kong to develop the Seepage Port project. You made 100 million illegally. In 2002, you bid for Ninghai Airport. Tang Jingping rushed over and grabbed the documents. Looking at the information on them, his eyes were filled with endless fear. If any of the information was leaked out, it would be enough to doom him eternally. You set me up, you set me up. He began to tear the documents apart as if he had gone crazy. Jiang Xiu said, Tang Jingping, every one of these is enough for you to spend the rest of your days in prison. Don't worry, I won't let you go just like that. I will make your prison life colorful. Tang Jingping said, Butler, call the Tang family. Now, all his hopes were pinned on the Tang family. I still have the Tang family. Jiang Xiu, I won't fall so easily. If you want to take me down, you have to go through my Tang family first. The people present also began to whisper. The Tang family is not easy to deal with. It seems that Jiangnan is going to be shaken. It could be foreseen that this would be a terrible confrontation between the two forces, but they all chose to side with Jiang Xiu. Of course, they hoped that Jiang Xiu would win. Jiang Xiu said, Your Tang family can be one of the 4 major families because of your career and business. Do you know that in this world, any rich man will hire a lot of bodyguards? Do you know why? Tang Jingping angrily dialed the Tang family's number. He didn't even have time to answer. The phone finally connected, but what came out was not a peaceful voice, but a scream of horror. In the Tang family's mansion, a tragedy of a massacre was happening. Old master, second uncle, blood sprayed on the million-yuan murals, the windows, the doors, the flower beds in the courtyard, and the rockery. One after another, the corpses were a shocking sight in the night. Countless shadows shuttled back and forth in the Tang family's courtyard, killing everyone in sight. They were checking the name list and the number of people. If anyone remembered the strange flower symbol on their left chest, they would recognize that these murderers were from Bodhi Biogenetics, which had disappeared for nearly 100 years. The phone fell to the ground, and Tang Jingping's agitated voice came from the phone. Old master, old master. He vaguely guessed what was happening in the Tang family. The phone was picked up, and the person said, "Is this Tang Shu? I'll have to trouble you to tell Mr. Jiang that all 36 members of the Tang family have been killed." Beep, beep, beep. Tang Jingping's mind was blown. He could smell the blood through the phone. He felt his eyes hurt so much that they almost fell out. All dead? No, Tang Jingping screamed crazily. You. Jiang Xiu looked indifferent. Tang Jingping, I've said that I'll pay you back 10 times, 100 times for what you did to my Jiang family. Do you think I'm joking? Tang Jingping was completely dumbfounded. His eyes were wide open, and he couldn't stop twitching. He never thought that the evil thing he did 12 years ago would be avenged like this. This revenge was too fierce and cruel. Not only did he kill his son, but he also wiped out the Tang family. Why are you so cruel? You didn't even leave them a way out. Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with pain. If it weren't for this accident, his parents wouldn't have ended up any better. His father was disabled and committed suicide, and his mother died for love. He suffered all kinds of humiliation in his life, and he was almost going to die. If it weren't for Cheng Lingran, he thought he would have followed his parents. When you harmed my father, did you ever think about what would happen to his beautiful wife and obedient child if he went to jail? What would happen to their child? Tang Jingping was stunned. Everything started because of evil, and of course it would end because of evil. At this time, the people from the provincial discipline department came in and said, "Tang Jingping, you're suspected of breaking the law, corruption, and bribery. Now you're needed to assist in the investigation." Ha ha ha. When Jiang Yi saw Tang Jingping being taken away, he recalled the scene when he was taken away. His wife and son hugged each other and cried. Lin Yueling sat on the ground for a day and a night. Although the young Jiang Xiu was ignorant, he didn't dare to make a sound and starved for a day and a night. Wonderful, wonderful. Lin Yueling's tears flowed out of her eyes. At this moment, she felt that all the suffering and grievances she suffered all these years were all worth it. Ling Dongcheng, you're suspected of. Ling Dongcheng slandered Jiang Yi and his wife, and they didn't have a good ending. They were also taken away. The case wasn't very serious, but they couldn't escape being fired and investigated. Jiangxiu, the #1 underground, and the Jiangnan frontier, the Tang family was destroyed like a chicken and a dog in front of the joint forces of these two people. It wasn't that the Tang family was weak, but that Mr. Jiang was too strong. Cheng Hanlin and Sun Xiaohong's faces were as pale as paper. Jiang Xiu's means of revenge made their hair stand on end. Tang Jingping was the culprit who harmed the Jiang family, but Cheng Hanlin was also one of the culprits. After dealing with Tang Jingping, they would be the only ones left. It's over. Sun Xiaohong was so scared that she fell to the ground. Cheng Lingsu leaned on her mother's side with a pale face. It's over. Cheng Hanlin's eyes were full of despair. Just kill me. I have nothing to say, Jiang Xiu said. It's good that you have this awareness. You betrayed your friends for glory. You're even more hateful than Tang Jingping. Cheng Lingsu rushed over and stood in front of Cheng Hanlin. Jiang Xiu, don't. Since our families still have some ties, spare my father's life. The Cheng clan has been destroyed by you. He has nothing left. Cheng Hanlin and Sun Xiaohong heard this and realized that the bankruptcy of the Cheng clan was caused by Jiang Xiu behind the scenes. Chapter 138. Cheng Hanlin could not figure out why the Cheng clan was suddenly besieged, and even Deputy Mayor Yi, who stood up for him, was removed from his position. It turned out that it was Mr. Jiang. In Jiang City, only Mr. Jiang had such ability. But even if he thought that it might be Mr. Jiang, he would never think that Jiang Xiu was Mr. Jiang. Even if he knew that it was Jiang Xiu who destroyed his Cheng clan, he was not dissatisfied at all. If Jiang Xiu wanted to take revenge on him, he had nothing to say, not to mention that his life was still in the hands of Jiang Xiu now. Whether he lived or died depended on Jiang Xiu's words. Sun Xiaohong begged for mercy and said, "Minor repairs, please don't kill your Uncle Cheng. Although you and Su Su are not married, you have been engaged since you were young. He is your father-in-law in name, Please spare him. Jiang Xiu's eyes were cold. This woman was really shameless. In the past, he had often mocked and ridiculed her. He had even called home several times to break off the engagement. Her daughter had even threatened to go to jail to force him to break off the engagement. Now he was saying nonsense like father-in-law. Sun Xiaohong's face was full of tears, and she said pitifully, "At that time, your Uncle Cheng really didn't know the consequences would be so serious. After it happened, he couldn't sleep every night. Later, it was so serious that he had a nervous breakdown. As long as there was a sound next to him, he couldn't sleep. We also lost the Cheng clan and became poor people with nothing. We also got our retribution. Spare Hanlin." Cheng Hanlin's face was sad, and his eyes lost their light. It seemed that he was suffering from inner torment. Jiang Xiu's face showed no sympathy at all. He was as cold as a lifeless statue. "Are you done acting? You brought all of this upon yourself. You asked for it. Who can you blame?" Cheng Hanlin said regretfully, "Brother Yi, sister-in-law. I, Cheng Hanlin, betrayed my friends for glory. I have nothing to say. Kill me, and everything will end." Jiang Xiu said, "Then I will send you on your way." As he spoke, he raised his hand. Jiang Xiu's heart was not as relaxed as he looked on the surface. He did not want to kill Cheng Hanlin and his wife. He knew what it would mean if he killed them. He would lose Cheng Lingran forever. But if he was given a choice, he would choose to bear the pain of losing Cheng Lingran and kill his enemy. Not only was Jiang Xiu cruel to his enemies, he was cruel to himself as well. One could even say that he was a masochist, not a masochist of his body, but rather, a masochist of his heart. He was able to endure the pain and agony in his heart, and it was precisely because he wasn't tied down by anything, and had the resolve to sever all emotions, that he was able to walk faster on the path of cultivation compared to others. This was also his style of doing things for the past 3,000 years in the immortal martial continent. No. Don't. Cheng Lingsu was so frightened that her soul almost left her body. She didn't know where she got the strength to protect her father. She stared at Jiang Xiu pleadingly as she shook her head with all her might. Jiang Xiu was the kind of person who would kill without hesitation. The clan leader of the Wang clan, Wang Xuehai, was pushed off the plane by him. The ancestor of the Wang clan was killed by him. Tang Jiming was also drowned by him. At this moment, she was afraid that if she blinked, her parents would die in front of her. Scram. If not, I will kill you too. Cheng Lingsu closed her eyes and waited for her death. At this moment, Cheng Lingsu, who was in the prime of her youth, felt as though she had nothing to live for. If Jiang Xiu really wanted to kill her parents, she would rather die with them. Wait! Lin Yueling shouted to stop him. Mom! Jiang Xiu's hand stopped abruptly. He looked at her in surprise. The one who hated Cheng Hanlin and his wife the most should be his mother. Why did she stop him instead? Lin Yueling said firmly, "You can't hurt Su Su. Su Su is my daughter-in-law. No one can touch her." Jiang Xiu looked at Lin Yueling in disbelief. Mom, why are you? He couldn't understand. It was already very clear that it was Cheng Hanlin who harmed their family. The hatred between the two families had reached this point. How could she still insist on this marriage? Lin Yueling said, "Su Su, come to auntie." With tears on her face, Cheng Lingsu shook her head at Lin Yueling and said, "No, he will really kill my parents. I can't go away. Auntie, please persuade Jiang Xiu to spare my parents." Lin Yueling took a deep look at Cheng Hanlin and his wife, then turned to Jiang Xiu and said, "Son, forget it. After all, they are Su Su's parents. They have nothing now." Jiang Xiu was very puzzled. "Mom, why?" Lin Yueling said, "You're angry, aren't you? Don't forget who raised you." Jiang Xiu didn't have to kill them. From the bottom of his heart, he didn't want to kill them. He just couldn't figure it out. He looked at his father. Jiang Yi was no longer as brave as he used to be. It could be said that he didn't want to care about anything. He generally didn't object to anything Lin Yueling said. His wife's kindness was like a mountain. This was also a way for him to express his gratitude. Jiang Yi also felt very guilty over these years. Even at this moment, he still chose to listen to Lin Yueling. Jiang Yi said, "Listen to your mom." Jiang Xiu said, "Why? I can't figure it out." Lin Yueling said, If you can't figure it out, then think about it slowly. You'll remember it eventually. Jiang Xiu was even more puzzled in his heart. Did he forget something? But what was it that made Lin Yueling insist that he go through with this engagement? Was it related to the two families in the capital? Or was it something else? Su, that's enough. Don't kneel on the ground. Cheng Lingsu was overjoyed. Thank you, Auntie. Jiang Xiu's face was livid. He was very dissatisfied with letting Cheng Hanlin and his wife off so easily. He had always been very cruel to his enemies, especially when they wanted him to maintain a relationship with Cheng Lingsu. Gu Deji said, Mr. Jiang, if Cheng Hanlin went out to testify for your father's case back then, it should be able to be cleared smoothly. In addition, you can help him restore his official position. What? Jiang Yi couldn't believe his ears. I can still go back, but I've been in prison and have been deprived of my political rights for life. Gu Deji said, You've been wronged. Tang Zhengping is the culprit. Jiang Yi said, Are you serious? His voice was trembling. This was a dream in his heart, a knot in his heart. Gu Deji said, In front of Mr. Jiang, who dares to make such a joke to you? It's up to you. What do you think? Do you still have the confidence to go back to being an official? Father Jiang never dreamed that there would be a day when he would be restored to his official position. His eyes were filled with tears. Yueling, did you hear that? I can continue to fulfill my political dream. Although I've been delayed for 12 years, at least there's still hope. Lin Yueling nodded repeatedly and also cried with joy. Yes, Jiang Yi said. Gu Shu, I'm willing. The people present also went up to congratulate him. Congratulations, Mr. Jiang. You'll be promoted step by step. Qin Baichuan said with a smile. With Mr. Jiang and Gu Shu around, it'll be difficult for Mr. Jiang to not be promoted step by step in Jiangnan. Haha. You're right, Chairman Qin. Jiang Yi had mixed feelings when he heard this. He looked at his son and couldn't help but feel proud. Yueling, our son has done well. He's done well. The Jiangnan frontier, the Jiangnan rich people, were all praising him like this. He felt like he was dreaming. One family was happy, and the other was sad. The Jiang family had been avenged and taken back what they had lost. On the other hand, the Cheng family had lost everything. Cheng Hanlin and his wife were like stray dogs. One could imagine the difference in their hearts. Sun Xiaohong pulled Cheng Lingsu aside and asked, Su, tell me, with the Jiang family's current status, why does your Auntie Lin still insist that Jiang Xiu marry you? What's going on between you two? The Jiang family was so powerful now. If her daughter could still marry into the Jiang family, she felt that she would have a chance to live the life she had before. No, she could even be 100 or 1,000 times more powerful than before. What a joke. Who in Jiangnan would dare to offend Mr. Jiang's mother-in-law? Cheng Lingsu was also puzzled. She shook her head and said, I don't know either. Logically speaking, Dad caused their family so much trouble back then. Both families have already turned against each other. There's nothing left for them to miss in our family anymore. There's no reason for us to go through with this marriage. Does Dad have any other agreements with them? Cheng Hanlin shook his head. Their relationship back then was really good, but now there was no such thing as kindness. Don't worry about it. You must be more obedient in the future, especially your Auntie Lin. She's a tough person with a soft heart. If you coax her well, she won't have the heart to kick you out. Chapter 139. That night, the news of the extermination of the Tang family and Tang Jingping's imprisonment spread throughout Jiangnan's upper-class society. However, the news was too big to spread. Only a small group of people in Jiangnan's upper-class society knew that it was Mr. Jiang who had exterminated the Tang family. In the hotel suite, Lin Yueling said, Son, tell us the truth. How did you become Mr. Jiang? Not only do the rich people in Jiangnan have to obey you, but even Gu Daji has to obey you. Jiang Yi was also very puzzled. The two of them could not figure it out. How could such an honest child undergo such a huge change? Jiang Xiu said, It's hard to explain. I have a master, a very powerful one. Everything I have now was given to me by him. There are some things that I can't say now. He did not want to make up unnecessary lies, but it was hard to believe if he told them the truth. The couple looked at each other. They could accept this explanation. The Jiang family was at the end of their rope, so they did not have to worry about being remembered. Lin Yueling asked, "That's your master's. Mom and Dad want to meet him." Jiang Xiu's usually proud eyes dimmed. His master was the most important person to him. Unfortunately, he was no longer around. Master has passed away. Ha! Jiang Xiu turned around and looked through the glass window at the boundless starry sky. Master taught me a lot of things. He gave me a second life. Jiang Yi said. That old man must be a great person. Jiang Xiu said. Of course. People who walk the heavens are not influenced by others. Looking at his son's back and seeing the night view of Ninghai City outside the French windows under his feet, Jiang Yi felt as if he was stepping on the whole city. Jiang Yi couldn't help but be moved. His son's demeanor was 100 or even 1,000 times greater than his, a scholar. His son had a decisive and domineering aura that looked down on the world. He thought to himself, that old man is really the benefactor of the Jiang family. He has taught Jiang Xiu so well. The next day, Tang Jingping's case was started. This matter involved the rehabilitation of Jiang Yi. Under Gu Shu's instructions, the progress was very fast. Cheng Hanlin was also very cooperative. According to him, he wanted to atone for his crimes. Tang Jingping had lost the Tang family, and he had so many crimes against him. So it was very easy for him to be rehabilitated. 5 days later, the case was decided and Jiang Yi was rehabilitated. 7 days later, Jiang Yi regained his position. However, it wasn't the same place where he fell from his horse. Instead, he became the chief of Annan County. According to Gu Deji, Annan would soon be promoted to a county-level city. When that time came, it would be a promotion for no reason. The Gu family wanted to build a good relationship with Jiang Xiu. Naturally, they spared no effort in dealing with Jiang Yi. This time, they could be considered to have helped Jiang Xiu a lot by dealing with the Tang family. Mr. Jiang, do you still remember our agreement? Of course, Jiang Xiu remembered. However, there was an accident in the middle. I don't dare to ask Mr. Jiang to enter my eldest brother's military district again. Can you become a consultant in the military district and be given a military rank? Jiang Xiu thought that the Gu family's brothers were really capable. They did not let Jiang Xiu go back on his original promise. They did not let him enter the military district either. They only wanted to be a consultant, and would not be assigned by the military district. They would also be given a military rank. Of course, my words count. That's really great. After the phone call, they saw Jiang Yi and his wife packing up. Lin Yueling said, Your father can't wait to take office now. Jiang Yi said, I've already wasted 12 years. Of course, I can't waste any more. Jiang Xiu smiled and said, You don't have to be in a hurry. Jiang Yi said, How can I not be in a hurry? Your father now has a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Gu Shu arranged such an important position for me. I must take up this responsibility. Lin Yueling smiled. At this moment, she repeatedly saw the young Jiang Yi. He was full of enthusiasm and desire for an official career. Jiang Xiu said, We still have to eat. Lin Yueling looked at the time and said, Oh, look at your mother. I was so happy that I didn't even cook. Cheers. Good wine. Haha. Jiang Yi held his wine glass and laughed heartily. How many years had it been since he had last been like this? He felt like he had been reborn. Jiang Xiu and Lin Yueling were also sincerely happy for him. Finally, the bitterness had come to an end. 3 people appeared at the door. Brother Yi. Jiang Yi frowned and said, What are you doing here? Cheng Hanlin was holding a bottle of Maotai in his hand. Jiang Yi liked to drink it. Cheng Hanlin's first sip of Maotai was given to him by Jiang Yi. He said, I'm here to congratulate you on your restoration. He looked very embarrassed. He had expected Jiang Yi's indifferent attitude. Also, I'm here to sincerely apologize to you. Back then, Jiang Yi came from a prestigious family. Although he had been driven out, his talent and arrogance made him look down on ordinary people. However, he and Cheng Hanlin hit it off at first sight. This was fate. Uncle Jiang, I heard that you are leaving for Nan'an today. I'm here to send you off. Cheng Lingsu smiled. She was still Jiang Yi's future daughter-in-law. According to etiquette, she should send him off. Jiang Yi's face was still sullen. Lin Yueling smiled at Cheng Lingsu and said, Su Su is so sensible. Come and sit next to Auntie. Cheng Lingsu said, Thank you, Auntie. We don't have to sit. We still have things to do. Lin Yueling said, What's wrong? Cheng Lingsu said, I have to go to the convenience store to work later. Lin Yueling heard this and said, Work? What work? Are you short of money? If you're short of money, you can ask your auntie for money. You're a girl and still so young. What if you get bullied? Don't go. Cheng Lingsu smiled and said, I'm not young. The convenience store is very easy. I just have to put the goods on display and collect some money. Uncle Auntie. She glanced at Jiang Xiu again. Seeing that he was ignoring her, she called out, Jiang Xiu, we'll go back first. With that, the whole family left. Looking at the Maotai left by Cheng Hanlin on the table, the difficulty of buying this bottle of Maotai was the same as their families back then. Jiang Yi said, If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Jiang Xiu said, Mom, why do you still want me to follow Cheng Lingsu? Aren't you making things difficult for my dad? As long as he had this relationship with Cheng Lingsu, the Jiang family still had to interact with the Cheng family. Lin Yueling scolded, Brat, Cheng Hanlin is Cheng Hanlin and Su Su is Su Su. Did you really forget that year, when your dad went to prison, Mom hugged you and sat on the ground for a day and a night? Jiang Xiu couldn't remember clearly, but he seemed to have some impression. What happened? Lin Yueling said, Mom fainted, and you fainted from hunger. If no one saved us, we would have died. Jiang Xiu said, You mean? Jiang Yi also heard of this for the first time, and he couldn't help but widen his eyes. Lin Yueling said, Yes, it's that little girl. She's only 5 years old. Mom will never forget the scene of her feeding Mom porridge. The Cheng family harmed us, but they also saved us. Jiang Xiu's eyes were full of disbelief, but after Lin Yueling said this, he vaguely remembered that after his father went to prison, he seemed to have stayed with his mother for 2 days with the Cheng family. He also remembered the scene of Cheng Lingsu feeding him porridge. Lin Yueling said, I also asked Su Su why she saved us when she was so young and couldn't even take care of herself. Guess what she said? She said that I'm her future mother-in-law, and you're her future husband. So from that moment on, I recognized her as my daughter-in-law. Jiang Xiu fell silent. At this moment, his heart was very tangled. The person who ruined his family in his previous life actually saved him and his mother. Since that was the case, he would let her go even if her merits offset her faults. From then on, they would go their separate ways. Jiang Yi's phone rang. He took it out and looked at it. His expression couldn't help but change. He got up and walked out of the house. This call was from the capital. Hello. The person on the other end said, Didn't I tell you to wait for my letter? Why did you act so recklessly? How did the Tang family get into trouble? Who helped you? Jiang Yi said, In short, it can't be you. That person said, You still have to go to Annan to take office. Jiang Yi, tell me honestly, did you do anything to betray the Jiang family? Did you betray the Jiang family's interests? Jiang Yi said, The Jiang family's interests? The Jiang family's interests were when they watched me go to prison more than 10 years ago. The Jiang family's interests were when they ignored me for more than 10 days and let my family self-destruct. Chapter 140. Jiang Yi said, I'd like to ask you, what benefits does your Jiang family have to make me betray them? The man's tone turned cold. What's with your attitude? Do I owe you anything? Or does my Jiang family owe you anything? Don't forget who you are. He paused for a moment. Let me ask you, what's going on with the Tang family? How did you get Annan's position? Explain it to me in full detail. When he received the news, he was very surprised. Although the Tang family was a small family with a golden exterior, it still had some roots in Jiangnan. It was really shocking that it was wiped out in one night. Everyone said that the Tang family had provoked some enemies, but he found that Jiang Yi benefited from it. Not only was the case that he was sent to prison cleared, But even the Jiangnam border governor helped him restore his official position. This kind of thing was simply unheard of. He specially used his position to suppress this appointment, but the Jiangnam border governor completely ignored the opinions of the capital and insisted on letting Jiang Yi take the position. This made him very puzzled and annoyed at the same time. Jiang Yi laughed, but the anger in his chest was even stronger. Why should I explain it to you? Just because you don't care about my family? Just because you let us destroy ourselves? Family affection had long been gone. It was gone from the moment he stepped out of the house 20 years ago. He was naive to think that there was still room for maneuver. You are presumptuous. Beep, beep, beep. Jiang Yi didn't wait for him to get angry and directly hung up the phone. There was no need to talk nonsense with him, and there was no need to listen to his lecture, because he didn't deserve it. If it was 12 years ago, he could understand that the Jiang family didn't take action because he didn't lower his head and didn't plead for mercy, so he still had a glimmer of hope for the Jiang family. But this time, he put down all his dignity and didn't ask for himself, but for Jiang Xiu's life. They left him to die, which completely disappointed Jiang Yi. If he didn't even save her life, what else was there to fantasize about? However, this was his home after all. After hanging up the phone, Jiang Yi's face once again showed a gloomy expression. After returning to his seat, there was no smile on his face. Lin Yueling immediately guessed that the call was from the capital. Haven't you always wanted to do something earth-shattering? Show those people that you can still do without anyone. Now we have such an opportunity. Jiang Yi said, Yes, you're right. He picked up the glass and poured the hot liquor down his throat. Minor repairs. Hurry up and fill in your university, or you'll miss out. Imperial Capital University and the University of China, which one do you want to go to? Since the relationship had been completely severed, there was no need to deliberately avoid it. There was also no reason for her to let her son give up on a better choice. Jiang Xiu thought to himself that his father had thought things through. Imperial Capital University is big, right? In Jiang Xiu's past life, Cheng Lingsu had chosen Imperial Capital University. He had gone to Imperial Capital to look for her. It felt like a bad student entering the Divine Temple. In Jiang Xiu's heart, he yearned for Imperial Capital University. Lin Yueling said, Ran is in Imperial Capital University. Su seems to want to apply to Imperial Capital University too. Imperial Capital University is good. You guys are in the same school and can take care of each other. Mom will wholeheartedly go to Annan to take care of your dad. After dinner, Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling set off for Annan. Jiang Xiu originally wanted Wang Xintong to send them a car, but someone from Annan came to pick them up. After sending his parents to the car, Jiang Xiu took out his phone and called Tang Wenchong. Help me check where Cheng Lingsu is working. More than 10 minutes later, Jiang Xiu appeared in a convenience store. Through the glass window, he could see Cheng Lingsu wearing a green employee uniform and arranging things on the shelves. Her long hair was a little scattered and hung on her forehead casually. It was stuck together by the crystal-clear sweat that seeped out. If Cheng Hanlin didn't harm the Jiang family, no matter how Cheng Lingsu ridiculed him, according to Jiang Xiu's character, he would have repaid her for saving his life. However, it all started when Cheng Hanlin betrayed his friends. This made Jiang Xiu feel uncomfortable. Aya! Cheng Lingsu cried out. The carton in her hand was too heavy. She didn't hold it properly and it fell down. It's okay, it's okay. The young man who worked with her ran over. Instead of scolding her, he comforted her and helped her pick up the goods scattered on the ground. Looking at the young man's infatuated eyes, he knew that another one was lost in Cheng Lingsu's beauty. A beauty was a beauty. She would be popular wherever she went. Let me do it. It's not convenient for a girl like you to carry such heavy things. Call me if you have heavy work in the future. The two worked together to put the goods on the shelves. Cheng Lingsu said softly, Thank you. The young man listened to her ethereal voice, which was like an orchid in an empty valley. His cheeks couldn't help but heat up, as if his heart was gently touched by a feather. Su, do you have time tonight? I'll treat you to a movie. Cheng Lingsu shook her head gently. You forget that I have to work the night shift at night. The young man suddenly remembered. Oh, next time. Although he was refused, The young man was not discouraged at all. He knew that a beautiful and pure girl like Cheng Lingsu was not so easy to win her heart. He must use perseverance and perseverance to slowly move her heart. Let's work first. After the young man reluctantly walked away, Jiang Xiu walked over and said, "You seem to be doing a good job." Cheng Lingsu turned her head. The relaxed smile on her face suddenly froze. She asked nervously, Why are you here?" Jiang Xiu said, "Can't I come?" Cheng Lingsu said, "No, that's not what I meant. I'm just surprised that you actually came to find me." The young girl's heart was sharp. Jiang Xiu appeared in front of her again. He no longer had that condescending pressure, but there was a sense of indifference and distance. He used to be very indifferent, but Cheng Lingsu could feel that there was a strong emotion under his indifference. She didn't know whether it was love or hate, but now it was gone. He used to call himself deity, to strengthen his aura, but now it was gone. Jiang Xiu said, "I'm here to tell you that I plan to apply to Capital University." Cheng Lingsu said, "Oh. Although my mother wants us to continue our relationship, you don't like me, and I don't have any feelings for you. You know what kind of person I am. I'm a wolf, and a wolf can't find a rabbit. Moreover, we've already dealt with the previous generation. There's no need for us to be entangled. So, I don't want you to go to the same school as me." Cheng Lingsu bit her red lips. "Must you not let me apply to Capital University?" Jiang Xiu said, "I can make it up to you." He took out a bank card and handed it to Cheng Lingsu. "There's $1 million in this card. It's enough for you to easily finish your studies in Capital University. Even if you want to go abroad, it's enough." In her previous life, Cheng Lingsu wanted to go abroad to get rid of Jiang Xiu. Now, Jiang Xiu was fulfilling her wish. Money was what Cheng Lingsu needed the most. Her parents' living expenses and her school fees. Indeed, she had thought of going abroad to study before. Before the college entrance exam, her family had already made plans for her. If she didn't get into Capital University or Capital University, she could go abroad to study. Cheng Lingsu reached out to take the bank card, but Jiang Xiu took it back and said, "Stay away from my mother in the future. If she doesn't call you, you can't call her. Also, find a boyfriend as soon as possible." Cheng Lingsu's expression changed. She couldn't help but look up at Jiang Xiu. The girl knew in her heart that Jiang Xiu really wanted to draw a line between them. She took the bank card he handed over and said with difficulty, "Okay." With that, Jiang Xiu turned and left. When he walked out of the convenience store, Cheng Lingsu's eyes slowly moistened. 2 lines of clear tears slid down her face. The young man appeared out of nowhere. "Susu, why are you crying?" Only then did Cheng Lingsu realize that there were tears on her face. She hurriedly reached out to wipe them away. She didn't know why she was crying. She should be happy that she finally broke up with him, and even got $1 million. When she raised her hand to wipe her tears, the young man saw the bank card in her hand. It wasn't an ordinary bank card, but a gold one. It was obvious that there was a lot of money in it. Who is he? He was very jealous. Cheng Lingsu shook her head and didn't say anything else. She just put the bank card away and turned to go back to work. However, she seemed to be in low spirits. Chapter 141. That afternoon, Jiang Xiu passed through Chuanzhou and took a plane to Pinghai. He was going to find Xie Sanxian to retrieve the magical stone. "Mr. Jiang," Xie Sanxian appeared at the airport's reception area. His body had not fully recovered, and his face was still very pale. He should have been resting at home, but since his benefactor was here, he insisted on coming to pick him up personally. Jiang Xiu's gaze swept over him. There was no sign of divine power in his body, and his breathing had returned to normal. It looked like he was fine. "Looks like you've recovered well." Xie Sanxian smiled and said, "This is all thanks to Mr. Jiang. If it weren't for Mr. Jiang, I would still be a monster. I don't have long to live. Mr. Jiang, this way, the car is outside." Seeing that Jiang Xiu was empty-handed and did not even have a gift bag, Xie Sanxian thought to himself, "This Mr. Jiang is really carefree." Xie Sanxian drove a Mercedes-Benz 600, a very luxurious car. In 2008, Only the richest people would drive such a car. He drove all the way to his house. It's just up ahead. Xie Sanxian's house was a manor villa. This made Jiang Xiu reevaluate his wealth. This was not a place that could be afforded just by having a net worth of over 100 million. Mr. Jiang, you're most welcome. Xie Sanxian's wife was standing at the door. As soon as the car arrived, she warmly welcomed them. Her gratitude to Jiang Xiu came from the bottom of her heart. Jiang Xiu had saved her husband and her family. Sorry to disturb you. Xie Sanxian's wife was called Chu Yi. Originally, the family had arranged a banquet to welcome Jiang Xiu, but Jiang Xiu was more interested in the stone. After welcoming him into the house, he brought Jiang Xiu to the backyard garden of his house. Along the way, they could see some antique designs. This person must have been very good at antiques. There were antiques like blue and white everywhere. It's buried under here. Xie Sanxian took Jiang Xiu to a corner of the garden, which was about 30 to 40 meters away from his residence. It was very far away, probably because he was worried that the thing might be radioactive. Jiang Xiu personally dug up the soil, while Xie Sanxian stood 5 or 6 meters away with lingering fear. Not long after, Jiang Xiu dug out a brocade box. What surprised Jiang Xiu was that there was a rune seal on it. What's with this talisman? Xie Sanxian said. Mr. Jiang, to tell you the truth, after I fell ill, I also looked for some sorcerers. They said that I was possessed by an evil spirit, so they performed a ritual, and even used a talisman to seal the stone. Indeed, I felt a little better for a few days, but it didn't help much after that. Jiang Xiu took out the brocade box, and went to the stone table by the waterside pavilion. He sat down and said with a strange expression, "It's strange that the talisman can work. Most of the talismans worked because of negative energy such as evil energy, yin energy, and ghost energy. However, this stone could make people evolve into Protoss. It was very strange." Jiang Xiu said. "Mr. Xie, are you not telling the truth?" Xie Sanxian was very embarrassed. "I can't hide anything from Mr. Jiang. Indeed, it's not like what Mr. Jiang said. In fact, I didn't mean to hide it. I didn't buy this stone to amass wealth, but it was passed down in my family. This stone also has another name, the Longevity Stone." Jiang Xiu said. "The Longevity Stone?" That was right. If this stone was used for cultivation, it was indeed a treasure that could prolong one's life. Xie Sanxian said. "Yes, according to the words left by my ancestors, this stone can live for 100 years. There are even more exaggerated sayings, saying that it can revive bones." Jiang Xiu said. "Where did your ancestors get this treasure?" Xie Sanxian said. "From a foreign tomb." Jiang Xiu frowned and said, "Was it dug out from a tomb?" "Whose tomb? Was there a corpse in the tomb?" Xie Sanxian shook his head and said, "I don't know about that. That was a long time ago. My Xie family only heard about it through word of mouth. Nothing like this has happened before. It only happened to me." Jiang Xiu nodded. He tore off the talisman and opened the box. There was a stone the size of a goose egg inside. It looked very ordinary. He reached out and took it out. "Mr. Jiang, be careful." Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and held the stone in his hand. The stone, which was originally cold, suddenly became hot. It was even a little hot. Jiang Xiu couldn't tell what the stone's texture was. He didn't have much research in this area. It wasn't very hard. If Jiang Xiu used force, he could crush the stone. With a little force, the stone emitted a red light. Jiang Xiu was a little surprised. He didn't recognize this rune. He had done a lot of research on runes. It could only be said that this rune was very rare. It could even be created by someone himself. It was normal that Jiang Xiu didn't recognize a rune that was created by an individual and not passed down. Not long after holding it in his hand, Jiang Xiu could feel the Protoss blood in his body growing. "Mr. Jiang, are you okay?" Jiang Xiu shook his head and stood up with the stone in his hand. According to his judgment, this stone should be an ancient relic of the Protoss. It was quite powerful. "Do you have more of this stone?" This stone with runes engraved on it definitely wasn't used for cultivation. It was more likely used to record the runes on it. In the past, when the Protoss didn't have pen and paper, they carved runes on the stone and then moved the stone to teach. Of course, it was more likely to leave behind important information. Xie Sanxian shook his head. No. Mr. Jiang, do you think there's more than one of these stones? Jiang Xiu said, far more than that. There should be 6 or 8 of them. Judging from the power of the runes, it could be a 6-word or 8-word spell. Xie Sanxian said, Mr. Jiang, if there are 6 or 8 of these stones, does my illness have anything to do with the fact that this stone is incomplete? Jiang Xiu knew what Xie Sanxian was thinking. The stone was so magical, but he still believed the ancestor's words. He shook his head and said, it has nothing to do with that. You couldn't stand the radiation emitted by the stone and cause the mutation. Xie Sanxian sighed helplessly. This big change made him feel a lingering fear. He said, although this stone was passed down by the ancestor, I don't have the fortune to enjoy it. Of course, I'll give it to Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xiu naturally wouldn't be polite with him. He came for the stone anyway. Did your ancestor say which tomb it was? At this time a servant came in with tea. Xie Sanxian motioned for Jiang Xiu to drink the tea. He also took a sip and said, this matter can be traced back to the Ming dynasty. At that time, the ancestor of the Xie family was serving in the army. He was guarding the land west of Pinghai, which was close to the western regions. Once, he was chasing a group of western regions bandits and went deep into the desert. In the end, he lost his way. Jiang Xiu listened to Xie Sanxian's words. His thoughts seemed to have come to the western regions where the wind was blowing and the sand was blowing wildly. The desert is very scary. As a combat force, it's even more dangerous to go deep into the desert. If you're not careful, you'll be drowned in the boundless desert. They walked in the desert for 7 days and 7 nights. Out of 1,000 people, there were less than 100 people left. At this time, they ran out of food and water. Their bodies were exhausted, and they didn't even have the strength to walk. When they all thought that they were going to die, a city appeared in front of them. My ancestor and his soldiers entered the city in ecstasy. But after they entered, they found that the city was actually a tomb. A huge underground tomb floated out of the ground. Along the way, there were huge statues of gods and Buddhas. What surprised them even more was that the people in the city were very strong. Even a child could defeat the strongest soldier in their army. Jiang Xiu was slightly moved. Xie Sanxian said, this stone was given to my ancestor by the people there before he left. After talking for so long, he still didn't get to the main point. Where was the tomb? Xie Sanxian said, about 3 years ago, this tomb, which was called the ancient city of Sahagan by the Ming dynasty, was discovered by archaeologists. However, there wasn't a single living person inside. Only ruins were left. The archaeologists said that it might be because of the weather. The map of the desert changed a lot, so they were drowned. Jiang Xiu noticed that Xie Sanxian's facial features were very deep. If he looked closely, he had a European silhouette, including his daughter. At that time, Jiang Xiu felt that Xie Ting's facial features were very beautiful. This Xie Sanxian didn't seem to be a pure Han. Chapter 142. Jiang Xiu sat cross-legged in his meditation room, holding the longevity rune stone in his hand. The red runes on the stone were like breathing lamps, flickering in and out, as though they were revealing an unfathomable secret of the heavens. And in Jiang Xiu's body, every time he breathed, his blood and qi would surge like a dragon overturning a river. There was even the sound of thunder rumbling. His divine energy was like a whirlpool funnel as it poured into his bloodline. After a month of bitter cultivation, his cultivation progressed by almost 1 divine imprint per day. Now, the number of divine imprints on his left arm had reached 62. Most of the words had already appeared, but there was still a small portion that hadn't appeared yet. And from the looks of it, Jiang Xiu didn't recognize it. This also confirmed his conjecture that it was either a primordial divine physique or a future divine physique that didn't exist in the immortal martial continent. He didn't have to worry about not recognizing this word. When the word was complete, Jiang Xiu would naturally awaken the pronunciation of this word. Once the word was uttered, it would definitely shake the heavens and earth. Looking at his facial features again, his entire appearance had changed quite a bit. His facial features were deep, and his aura was mysterious, carrying with it a boundless aura of hidden bitterness. Boom, boom, boom. The momentum was extremely shocking. The blood and qi in Jiang Xiu's body once again reached the peak and broke through the barrier. His entire divine body seemed to have exploded, and was fiercely condensing. Awakening Realm, 63 Profound. As Jiang Xiu's cultivation grew higher and higher, his cultivation speed had already begun to slow down. This was inevitable, and he didn't feel anything. What was more troublesome was that his strength was getting stronger and stronger, and the commotion caused by his cultivation had also become greater. This point caused him to have a headache. Why haven't the divine imprints formed yet? After breaking through to become a true god, he would be able to completely control his divine energy. Luckily, he had this longevity rune stone. Otherwise, where would he find so much energy for the awakening realm? I wonder how many divine imprints are left. Jiang Xiu felt somewhat unsatisfied, but he had no choice but to stand up. He couldn't continue cultivating. After staying at home for more than a month, the school term was about to start, and he had no choice but to report to the school. He rejected his parents and the people of Rivertown to send him off, and stepped on the plane to the imperial capital alone. After more than 3,000 years, he had once again stepped onto this land that had caused him endless humiliation. However, unlike his previous life where he came here to seek shelter from his relatives like a stray dog, in this life, he stepped into this place from an overlooking point of view. It was the start of the school year, and there was a sea of people. Many of them were returning students and excited new students. In his previous life, Jiang Xiu had been to Imperial University once, and the memory was still fresh in his mind. The century-old school had its own extraordinary style. Not to mention the students, even the parents would feel excited when they set foot here. Just like any other school, there were seniors at the entrance to welcome the new students. As long as the girls were not too bad-looking, they were very popular. Girls who scored 70 or 80 points would be directly pounced on by 3 or 4 horny boys. Girls who scored 90 points would have a better figure and appearance, and more than 10 horny boys would say that it was not enough. 2 of them even fought for the girls' luggage. The guys were in a worse situation. If they were not handsome, no one would pick them up. If they were handsome, no one would pick them up. Junior brother, which department and class are you from? Jiang Xiu turned his head and looked over. It was a girl who looked quite delicate. With light makeup on her face, she looked quite beautiful. She was smiling as she spoke. In the distance, there were 2 female students talking shyly. Me? I'm from the archaeology department. When Jiang Xiu was filling in the archaeology department, Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. They asked him why, and he said that it was because of interest. Archaeology department, why did you apply for such an unpopular department? The girl said, it's okay. I know where the archaeology department is. Do you need senior sister to lead the way? Jiang Xiu said, thank you. I'm waiting for someone. The girl was very embarrassed, and the 2 female companions behind her could not help but giggle. She said, Junior brother, you're not giving me any face. Alright, goodbye. Jiang Xiu was waiting for Cheng Lingran here. She had said that she would pick him up. After waiting at the school gate for half an hour, Jiang Xiu could not help but call Cheng Lingran. When our Miss Cheng picked up the phone, the first thing she said was to apologize. Minor repairs, I'm sorry. Susu also started school today. I went to Huaxia University with my parents. I forgot to tell you. Life was unpredictable. He did not expect that he would have the chance to become schoolmates with Cheng Lingran. Even though his spiritual cultivation had long been prepared to endure the pain of losing her, he still felt a little disappointed when he was ignored in such a gorgeous way. It's okay, you go ahead. It's the same for me to find a senior brother or sister to take me. Cheng Lingran said. It's my fault this time. I'll treat you to a meal later. I'll make a blanket for Susu first. After saying that, he hurriedly hung up. Excuse me, how do I get to the archaeology department? The archaeology department was too unpopular. Jiang Xiu asked a few people in a row. Moreover, those seniors were in a hurry to play football. They did not even care to lead the way for him. They just pointed the way for him. He could only ask and search all the way inside. "Excuse me, how do I get to the archaeology department?" Seeing a group of boys coming out of the teaching building in front of him, Jiang Xiu went up to ask. "Are you also from the archaeology department?" The group of boys said helplessly. "Yes, what's wrong?" A boy at the side said. "Well, another idiot who wants to chase Chiu Inru to join the archaeology department." TSK. Why is our beauty so fierce? The boy at the front turned around and pointed to the teaching building behind him and said, "That's the teaching building of the archaeology department. Classmate, let me give you a piece of advice. Chiu Inru is not someone we can catch up with. It's not worth it to put your future on the line. It's not too late to change departments now." Jiang Xiu thought to himself that he had been mistaken, but he did not explain. Was it worth it to explain to a few strangers? After saying thank you, he walked towards the archaeology department's teaching building. There was a group of people gathered in the teaching building. An old professor stood among them and was introducing something on the blackboard. The students around him were scattered. Some listened to a few words, while others chatted among themselves. Due to the special nature of our archaeology, we will have a lot of time to explore outside the school. I hope you are mentally prepared. These are the few difficulties we have to overcome this semester. The ruins of the Yellow Rivers 3, 6, and 9 Spits, this well-preserved Sichuan Linrong village that surfaced because of the drought, and this year, we will also invite many archaeologists. We are also lucky to invite Mr. Qian Deshen as a consultant. Jiang Xiu walked into the teaching building and said, "Is this the archaeology department?" Seeing that Jiang Xiu was still pulling his luggage, the professor said, "You're a freshman, right? Why did you bring your luggage here? Go to the dormitory and arrange it first. Where are the students who went to pick up the freshmen?" Jiang Xiu shook his head. He did not meet them at all. "Forget it. Put your luggage aside first. Listen to me about the mission for the next semester. Does anyone know where this is?" The professor's laser pointer landed on a projection on the blackboard. After returning from Xie Sanqian's place, he had checked some information about the ancient city of Sahagan. The image in front of him was one of the corners. Although it was very blurry, it should be correct. Jiang Xiu replied, "It should be the ancient city of Sahagan." Yes, that new student. You're right. Everyone's gaze was focused on him. Little did they know that Jiang Xiu was a blind cat who had bumped into a dead mouse. This is an ancient desert city that has been submerged by the wind and sand for hundreds of years. Many people suspect its existence, but I've studied the relevant information for many years. It definitely exists. The professor was very excited and spoke for more than 20 minutes in one breath. After everyone dispersed, Jiang Xiu asked, "Professor, do we have a plan to go to this ancient desert city?" The professor said, "Why? Are you interested?" This professor wore glasses and his hair was very coarse. There was a lot of white hair, but his eyes were very bright. At a glance, one could tell that he was a knowledgeable person. "We do have a plan, and we've already formed an exploration team." He picked up a list on the table. "However, you're only in your first year, and the staff is full. Wait for next year." Even if Jiang Xiu had no problem surviving in the desert, finding the ancient desert city was like looking for a needle in a haystack. In this regard, he had to rely on these experienced archaeologists. "Professor, can't you make an exception? I'm really interested in this ancient city." The professor pondered for a moment and said, "In that case, you can go find Chiu Inru. She was the one who pulled in the sponsorship for this project. If she says it's okay, then it's okay. If she says no, then we'll have to wait." Chapter 143. It was Chiu Inru again. It seemed like she was really a famous person on campus. Jiang Xiu said, "Professor, I just entered the school and I don't even know who she is. Which one is Chiu Inru?" Professor Su chuckled. "Then you really have to get to know her. Little Chiu is the beauty of our archaeology department." "Oh right. She was the one who led the team to welcome the new students. She might be near the dormitory or at the payment counter. Go find her yourself." But let me remind you, Jiang Xiao, right? Little Qiu is not easy to deal with. However, it's not convenient for you to bring your luggage. You should go to the dormitory and settle down first. Our exploration team still needs to wait for a few important people. There's still time. Jiang Xiu nodded. He pulled his luggage and asked around before finally finding his dormitory. Wow, on the first day of school, the dormitory building was simply going to explode. It was so lively with parents and students. After finding his dormitory, he pushed open the door and entered. There were people inside. 3 of the seats in the 4-person dormitory were already taken. Jiang Xiu had no choice but to take the remaining bed. However, the archaeology department was different from other departments. They didn't stay in the dormitory for long and often had to go out. Of course, on the other hand, the cost of going out was much higher than staying in the school. In addition, Jiang Xiu also planned to rent a room near the school. His cultivation was a bit loud, and it would be very inconvenient. Hey, you live here too? Jiang Xiu had just put down his things when 2 boys came in. One was about 1.7 meters tall and was very thin. He was a bit small and wore glasses. He looked refined. The other was a bit sturdy. His skin was very dark, but his eyes were bright. He looked like a very energetic person. That's right, I'm Jiang Xiu. The 2 of them were very enthusiastic. They walked over and said, I'm Zhou Jin. He's Zhang Yiwei. Let us help you. Do you want to make the bed? Thank you. The 2 students helped Jiang Xiu make the bed. Jiang Xiu, where are you from? Jiangnan Province's Jiang City. The skinny Zhou Jin said, Jiang City, never heard of it. Old Jiang, have you heard of it? The latter also shook his head, indicating that he had never heard of it. Zhou Jin said, however, Jiangnan is a good place. It's full of outstanding people. After all, Jiangcheng was a city in Jiangnan Province, not a provincial capital. China was so big, so it was normal that they didn't know. Jiang Xiu naturally didn't care about such a small matter. He said, oh right, when you came here just now, did the seniors bring you here? Do you know where Senior Qiu Yinru is? Hee hee. The 2 students laughed. Zhang Yiwei said, not bad, brother. You've already set your sights on our goddess. However, our goddess is too popular. Let's lower our target. Jiang Xiu smiled helplessly and said, I'm looking for her. That's what all the guys who are looking for her say. The 2 of them said in unison. Boys in puberty usually paid attention to their female classmates. The 2 of them were excited when they talked about Qiu Yinru. Zhou Jin said, Goddess Qiu isn't our senior. Like me, she's a freshman this year. When she was in high school, she had already gone out with Professor Su to do archaeology. In addition to her shocking background, she was specially recruited by the school. Although she's a freshman, she knows more about the school's affairs than the sophomores and juniors. She's also a committee member of our archaeology department. Jiang Xiu said, I'm really looking for her, but there's still time. There's no rush. The professor said that he still needed to wait for a few experts. There should be a few more days. He would definitely meet her. Is it done? Goddess Qiu seems to be at the payment counter. Jiang Xiu was also about to pay. However, when he reached the payment counter, it was very noisy. There were so many people that he couldn't squeeze in. Not only were they freshmen, but the seniors were also paying here. Over there. Zhou Jin was small, but he was able to squeeze in. He quickly squeezed into the crowd and found Qiu Yinru. Jiang Xiu had heard of this goddess for a long time. From afar, he saw a beautiful figure standing in the field. Even a quick glance was enough to make him feel that she was extremely beautiful. However, Goddess Qiu's pretty face was cold as she stared at the boy kneeling on one knee in front of her. The boy said, My family is very rich. I have tens of millions of assets. I even bought a house in the capital. I even have a Mercedes-Benz. I'm 1.9 meters tall. Everyone on the basketball team calls me the basketball god. Also, I've never had a girlfriend. I'm still a virgin. Ha ha ha. There was a burst of laughter at the payment counter. Qiu Yinru blushed. She was a very serious person. It didn't matter if these people were here to bid farewell to her after losing a bet, or if they were sincerely confessing to her. It made her feel very embarrassed. Alright, students have played enough. Everyone is waiting to pay the bill. He was anxious when he heard this. I'm sincere. Serious face. It didn't sound like it was because he lost a bet. Perhaps he really was confessing to Chio In-ru. Enough, stop fooling around. There are so many people watching. Chio In-ru lowered her voice. Her beautiful eyes were filled with dignity. She hoped that this person would be tactful. Please give me a chance. I really like you. Chio In-ru said. Sorry, I won't date people from the same school. You can try confessing to other girls. The boy was disappointed. Why won't you date people from the same school? Can I transfer schools? Chio In-ru was stunned. She really couldn't understand these newbies. It was their first day here, and they probably didn't even know who she was. They rushed up to confess to her just because she was pretty. It was as if they were afraid that she would be snatched away if they were late. She didn't even know if they were here to study or to pick up girls. I really can't. This kid is in trouble. He actually confessed to Goddess Chio. If young Master Lu and young Master Zhuang find out, who knows what will happen to him? This newbie is blind. Doesn't he know that the seniors are still single? He doesn't understand first come first serve. The boy was extremely disappointed and was pushed out by the crowd. Excuse me, are you Chio In-ru? Chio In-ru glanced over and saw an unfamiliar face. What do you want now? Is your family rich, or are you good at basketball? Are you trying to sell your innocence? Her tone was clearly angry. Her beautiful eyes stared fiercely at Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu was stunned. This girl was quite fierce. He said, I want to join the expedition team in Shahagan. Professor Su said that he had to ask you about this. Chio In-ru said, no, our team is full. Jiang Xiu said, how about this? I'll pay for all the expenses. You just have to bring me along. I should be able to help. Why don't you reconsider? Chio In-ru said, no means no. Our expedition is a team. It's not like going to an amusement park and buying tickets. If something happens to you on the way, can we just leave you in the desert? Also, let me give you a piece of advice. Archaeology isn't a joke. There are many times when your life is in danger. Don't waste your time on this. Focus on your major. Jiang Xiu said, my major is archaeology. Chio In-ru, tell me, what do I have to do for you to let me come along? Chio In-ru took out a wooden block from her bag. She said, this is a Luban lock. It's a child's level of difficulty. There are a total of 12 locks. If you can solve it before we leave, I might consider it. After that, he threw the Luban lock to Jiang Xiu and turned around to leave. Bro, good job. You've successfully attracted Goddess Chio's attention. Zhou Jin gave him a thumbs up. Good job. Jiang Xiu felt quite helpless. He held the lock in his hand and shook his head. What an arrogant guy. Jiang Xiu was a bit disappointed. He really hoped that she could give him a problem that spiritual cultivation couldn't solve. Somewhere in the capital, an old man wearing a loose taiji suit held a purple teapot in his hand. Recently, someone mentioned a person's name in front of me. Jiang Yi. The few people behind him were silent. They were so angry that they became nervous and solemn for some reason. Tell me, which one of you did this? There was still no sound. Second brother. The middle-aged man raised his head. He had asked before and naturally couldn't hide it from the old man. He hurriedly said, Old man, it really wasn't me. I just wanted to understand the situation. The old man's face was cold. It really wasn't you? The middle-aged man behind him was depressed. It really wasn't me. He seems to have connected with the Gu family. Gu Deji? What nonsense. In less than 2 months, Jiang Yi had taken down 3 major projects and doubled Annan's GDP. Hence, he was promoted to the position of head of Annan City. Coincidentally, Annan County was upgraded to a city, so Jiang Yi was promoted to another level. In less than 2 months, he was promoted twice. I want to see how big of a wave he can create. The old man's face was gloomy. He suddenly thought of something and said, Oh right, his son should be going to university soon. Yes, he's going to university this year. The old man asked, Where is he going to university? Capital University. The old man's face was even gloomier. He even sent his son to Capital University. What is he doing? Who is he showing off to? Does he think that he's so great just because he's an Annan County scholar? Chapter 144. The courtyard was very big, and there were many people, but it was completely silent. A strong aura suppressed them. No one dared to make a sound, for fear of angering the old man at this critical moment. In the Jiang family, Jiang Yi's name was taboo. No one was allowed to mention it. If anyone mentioned it, they would be attacked. 12 years ago someone said it, but it didn't move for more than 10 years. It was hard to imagine that if a son of such a rich and powerful family didn't get promoted for more than 10 years, his official career would be ruined. But no matter how angry they were, they didn't dare to say anything. Otherwise, the consequences would be even worse. The old man walked back and forth in the courtyard 3 times. Seeing that no one spoke, he waved his hand and said, "You can all leave. Don't stand here like idiots. Go do what you need to do." As soon as he finished speaking, the children present all said, "Old master, we'll leave first." The old man didn't look back. He sat down on the rattan chair. Soon everyone left. He looked at the rattan tree in front of him. His eyes revealed a trace of sadness. Coupled with the empty courtyard, there was a sense of loneliness. But soon, the sadness in his eyes gradually turned into anger. The unfilial son's voice rang in his ears. "Don't make it sound so dignified. I'm just trying to save your face. Once I meet your requirements and make you lose face, you'll scold me like this. Who I marry is my own business. No one can stop me, including you. If you insist on stopping me, then I'll leave. I'll leave the Jiang family and draw a clear line with the Jiang family. I'll live a good life, better than when I was in the Jiang family." With a bang, the shockingly expensive Yixing clay teacup was smashed by him. It was said that there were only 5 Yixing clay teacups left. The tea flowed silently on the ground. A well-mannered secretary wearing a Chinese tunic suit walked out of the courtyard. He shook his head and sighed. "What a pity. There are so many Yixing clay teacups." He squatted down and picked up the teacup fragments on the ground. The old man said, "Did I arrange a marriage for his son? I'm getting old. I've forgotten a lot of things." The refined secretary said, "The old chief is very strong. Look, the teacup is so smashed that it can't be put back." The Jiang family was able to unite such a big family like the Nangong family tightly by her side. This engagement played a big role. How could she forget about it? It was just that pretending to be unimportant. The old man said, "Send someone to meet that kid." The secretary said, "Jiang Yi will definitely not agree." The old man raised his eyebrows angrily and said, "Back then he couldn't make his own decision when he was still an infant. How could he not know how to make a choice when he's already in college? Not everyone is as stupid as him. Even a fool would know how to choose between the big Jiang family and his useless father. He can resist me, but his son doesn't know how to resist him." The secretary said, "Okay, I'll arrange it." After paying the fee, Jiang Xiu walked to the teaching building with a few students. Zhou Jin was studying the Luban lock. He said, "Archaeologists often have to deal with tombs. There are many anti-tomb robbers in tombs. Therefore, unlocking the Luban lock is a necessary skill. 12 Luban locks are too difficult. I can only unlock 8. Zhang Yiwei said, "I'm even worse. I've never played with this thing before. I'm interested in archaeology and history. It's okay. I'll go online later. The almighty internet must have a tutorial." Zhou Jin said, "Forget it. You can't find it even if you look everywhere. This is a secret skill. It's not taught to outsiders." "Ah," Zhang Yiwei said, "that's too difficult. I've heard about the archaeological project in the ancient desert city. Because they have to enter the desert, it's very dangerous. They have to invite a lot of professionals. They're really short on manpower. Now they're waiting for a few important experts. They'll set off as soon as they arrive. Jiang Xiu doesn't have much time." Zhou Jin said, "It's so difficult. Not many people in the expedition team can unlock it. Isn't Qiu Yinru making things difficult for him? It's not like he's asking her to be his girlfriend. Is there a need to be so serious?" There were many people in the teaching building. There was also a lot of equipment. The students were very excited to try it out. The old professor said excitedly, "Expert Qian came 2 days earlier than we expected." The expert was here? Jiang Xiu looked over and saw a man in his 30s. This was Qian Deshen, an American Chinese, a famous archaeologist and historian. Qian Deshen said, "When I heard about the ancient city project this time, I couldn't sleep at night. As early as 3 years ago, I had this plan. Finally, this opportunity has come." The old professor said, "It's all thanks to little Chiu that we got a sponsor. Otherwise, who knows how long it would have taken." Chiu Yinru said seriously, "I'm just doing my part." Qian Deshen smiled. It wasn't his first day knowing Chiu Yinru. This girl was very serious and was full of respect for archaeology. "Little Chiu, are you going to participate this time?" Chiu Yinru said, "Of course." Qian Deshen said, "Okay, women are not inferior to men. This time, our team will try to control the number of people. The desert is different from other places. It's best to control it to 18 people. I have 4 people with me." Chiu Yinru said, "The number of people should be controlled. Don't worry about it." The group chatted for a long time. When Chiu Yinru walked out, Jiang Xiu went up to her and said, "Student Chiu, do you have time? I'll treat you to a cup of coffee." Chiu Yinru said, "No time." The rejection was very straightforward. Although her pretty face was very cold, it was as if she didn't want anyone to get close to her. Jiang Xiu followed her and saw her walking to the school's office with a medical kit. It seemed like she was going to report the case of this exploration team. Jiang Xiu said to her, "It won't take up too much of your time." Chiu Yinru ignored him. Jiang Xiu followed her into the elevator and said, "I don't know if student Chiu will keep her promise. As long as I can unlock the Luban lock, you will let me go with you." Chiu Yinru said, "Then have you unlocked it?" She didn't believe him. Not to mention that Jiang Xiu had just obtained the Luban lock. Even if he was given 10 or 100 days, he still might not be able to unlock it. And Jiang Xiu took the Luban lock and squatted down. His slender fingers were as dexterous as if they had a life of their own. He manipulated the Luban lock at will. Almost in the blink of an eye, the Luban lock was unlocked and the 12 components were placed neatly on the floor of the elevator. Chiu Yinru's beautiful eyes widened in shock. It was too fast. She only saw the afterimages of Jiang Xiu's slender fingers on the outside of the Luban lock before it was unlocked. How is it? I should have passed. Originally, he would have been able to find a cafe to sit down and unlock the lock rather than squatting in an elevator. You've unlocked it before? Jiang Xiu shook his head. In the immortal martial continent, there was a profession called the puppeteer. Mechanisms that were much more complicated than this one were easily unlocked by him. There were hundreds of thousands of locks, not to mention a mere 12 shackles. Then she saw Jiang Xiu's hands move, and the 12 components on the floor of the elevator were reassembled. He handed the Luban lock back to Chiu Yinru and said, "You should keep your promise." Suddenly, the elevator sank with a bang. Chiu Yinru screamed in fright as the elevator stopped. However, the elevator was completely dark and didn't move. "Someone help! Help!" Chiu Yinru screamed in horror. She was completely different from her usual calm and cool demeanor. She was hysterical and had completely lost control of the situation. Her screams caused Jiang Xiu's eardrums to hurt. In the darkness, Jiang Xiu saw that her pretty face was deathly pale. She was so scared that she didn't know what to do. Thinking of how cold she was before, Jiang Xiu couldn't help but laugh. Girls really knew how to act. But then again, if such a beauty didn't act cold and distant, she would have been annoyed to death by those boys. "Help, help!" Chiu Yinru heard Jiang Xiu's laughter and stopped. "You're still laughing? Life and death are hanging by a thread. If the elevator falls, we'll lose our lives." Her voice was trembling as she spoke. Jiang Xiu said, "Someone will come and fix it. They should be here soon." He reached out and pressed the emergency button, but there was no response at all. It seemed that the circuit board was burned. It doesn't matter. When the people outside find out that the elevator doesn't work, they'll send someone over. Chiu Inru's delicate body was pressed against the elevator wall. Her whole body was trembling uncontrollably. Then Jiang Xiu saw her collapse to the ground. She had actually fainted. Chapter 145. It can't be. Jiang Xiu squatted down beside Chiu Inru and patted her shoulder. Hey, wake up, wake up. Could it be that she was claustrophobic or that she had a heat stroke today? The girl's body emitted a feminine fragrance that made people feel very comfortable in the hot summer. Her eyes were tightly shut, and she didn't say a word. It really looked like she had fainted. In such a situation, according to TV dramas, they would have to perform CPR. Jiang Xiu was a little out of line. He knew everything except mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But now there was nothing he could do. He pinched Chiu Inru's cute nose and then took a deep breath. He looked at the girl's beautiful cherry lips and leaned down. Seeing the girl's cherry lips getting closer and closer, his heart actually began to beat a little nervously. This was exciting. But did their lips have to touch for CPR? Forget it, just treat it as a sacrifice. If their lips touched, did he have to stick his tongue in? This was too difficult for him. Just as Jiang Xiu's lips were about to touch the girl's cherry lips, the girl's eyes suddenly opened. In the dark elevator, it was very scary. Damn. Sit up in the midst of a dying illness. You really aren't a good person. Chiu Inru glared and said fiercely. Let me tell you, you passed the 12 Luban locks, but you didn't pass the moral test. Jiang Xiu was dumbfounded. How could this be? How did I not pass? Chiu Inru said. Is this how you do CPR? You just need to exchange breaths. I can tell that you have bad intentions. You really want to kiss me. Jiang Xiu bitterly smiled. This Chiu Inru's personality was really strange. She was actually testing someone's nature. He said, Can you not use your complicated thoughts to guess my simple thoughts? Chiu Inru said, You still dare not admit it? Jiang Xiu said, Of course I won't admit it. Did I kiss you? I haven't even kissed you yet. How can you be so sure that I'm going to kiss you? If you don't believe me, we can try again. I'm just going to give you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I don't have any other intentions. Chiu Inru was skeptical. She was worried that Jiang Xiu would really kiss her, so she opened her eyes in advance. Do you really know how to do CPR? Jiang Xiu said. Of course, let's try again. Chiu Inru had already felt that she was at a disadvantage after testing her once. How could she let him try again? What's more, Jiang Xiu already knew about it. How could he still reveal himself? There was no point in trying again. But some things were destined by the heavens, and the heavens were the most important. With a clang, the elevator fell again. Jiang Xiu was not very stable in the first place, so he fell forward. Under Chiu Inru's stunned gaze, Jiang Xiu's mouth was getting closer and closer. Creak creak. Just like that, they kissed in a completely illogical way. For a moment, they stared at each other in disbelief. How could such a ridiculous thing happen? At this moment, Chiu Inru's mind was blank. She deeply understood the saying, one is trapped in a cocoon of one's own making. If it wasn't for her sudden inspiration to test Jiang Xiu's character, she definitely wouldn't have been kissed. Oh heavens, oh earth, this is my first kiss. She didn't know why she closed her eyes. Because of this action, the great beauty Chiu Inru couldn't understand. Every time she thought about it, she was so embarrassed that she wanted to kill herself. Later on, according to the explanation of a very unreliable web novelist, every girl had the desire to be conquered, especially when faced with a domineering wall or bed. At that moment, they would be flustered and lose their resistance, not to mention such a destructive elevator thump. It wasn't that the great beauty Chiu Inru didn't want to resist, but it was too powerful and she couldn't resist. At this moment, a ray of light shone from the heavens. It seemed like the elevator door was slowly opened. Light shone in from the outside. Outside the door stood two elevator repairmen. Hua! This was too exciting. This was too exciting. One of the repairmen said jokingly, Students, this is too. It's really dangerous in the elevator. It's easy to lose oxygen. Chiu Inru forcefully pushed Jiang Xiu away. She picked up the documents on the ground, covered her face and ran out. Her long hair swayed back and forth, and she almost fell. Jiang Xiu was also quite embarrassed. Although he wasn't at a disadvantage as a guy, he was a clean freak when it came to relationships. If he didn't have feelings for her, he wouldn't have done this kind of thing. It was really an accident. Even Jiang Xiu didn't know that the elevator would suddenly move. Jiang Xiu quickly caught up with Qiu Yinru's footsteps. Qiu Yinru's beautiful face was cold. She thought to herself, this person's skin is really thick. Doesn't he have any shame after taking advantage of me? He still dares to pester me. She heard him say, I'll ask you one more time. Will you bring me to the ancient desert city? Jiang Xiu's true nature slowly revealed itself when he tried to persuade her nicely, but this girl just wouldn't listen. Qiu Yinru said, Is this how you ask for help? Jiang Xiu said, I'm not begging you. I opened the 12 Luban locks with my own ability. Zhou Jin and Zhang Yiwei were both there. Don't tell me you want to go back on your word. Qiu Yinru said, the archaeology team's character is very important. Jiang Xiu said, going back on my word is a good character? Qiu Yinru bit her red lips. You. It's still better than you. Seeing someone faint, you took advantage of her. You're a hooligan, you know? Jiang Xiu said, I didn't kiss her. Qiu Yinru said, then was I kissed by a puppy? After saying this, Goddess Qiu's heart almost broke down. She couldn't believe that she said this. Where's your integrity, Qiu Yinru? Jiang Xiu couldn't help but laugh. It's fine if you're scolding me, but why do you have to embarrass yourself like this? Qiu Yinru said, what are you laughing at? You look so evil. Let me tell you, you won't be able to go to the ancient desert city this time. I've never seen such an arrogant freshman like you. You want to go on an expedition as soon as you arrive. This is the benefit of being a senior. Jiang Xiu said, if that's the case, then there's nothing left to say. Qiu Yinru said, who wants to talk to you? Since it was like this, Jiang Xiu naturally didn't say anything else. He turned and left. Jiang Xiu left just like that, making Qiu Yinru feel a bit strange. She wondered if she was too heartless. But after thinking about it, if he gave up so easily, then he didn't really want to go to the ancient desert city. Thinking of this, she felt relieved. Jiang Xiu obviously wouldn't give up. Other than going with the expedition team, the others might not be able to do it, but he had many other methods. He could sponsor an archaeological team. Money wasn't a problem for him. Also, he could follow the expedition team. To him, the difficulties along the way weren't a problem at all. He didn't need a team to overcome them. His only problem was finding the ancient desert city. On the way back to the dormitory, he saw a tall and thin man. He asked, You're Jiang Xiu? Jiang Xiu said doubtfully, That's right. I'm meeting a friend at the coffee shop outside the school. Do you want to come with me? Jiang Xiu said, What friend? You'll know when you get there. When they went there, Jiang Xiu saw a person. It was the first time the person saw Jiang Xiu, but it wasn't the first time Jiang Xiu saw him. Grandfather Zhang's secretary sat opposite him with a cold look in his eyes. The secretary carefully looked at Jiang Xiu. He couldn't find any shadow of Jiang Yi in him. The Jiang Xiu in front of him was full of indifference and arrogance. You're Jiang Xiu. I'm your grandfather's secretary. Jiang Xiu said, I have a grandfather. The secretary smiled and said, Of course, everyone has a grandfather. And your grandfather is a very amazing person. He looked around and lowered his voice. Your grandfather is Guilao Jiang Yishan. Jiang Xiu said with a shocked expression, Yes. The secretary said, You know what kind of family the Jiang family is. The so-called 4 great families in Jiangnan are like primary school students in front of the Jiang family. Jiang Xiu said, Really? They're so powerful. The secretary wasn't exaggerating. After all, the 4 great families in Jiangnan were just local families. Except for the Gu family, which was really powerful and could compete with the second-tier families in the capital, they couldn't reach the first-tier level at all. The so-called noble families would be empty if they didn't enter the central government. The secretary said, Do you want to come back? If you come back, you can change from a boy in the countryside to a young master in the capital. In the future, You can rely on the Jiang family to do business, or go on an official career. You can rise up. Jiang Xiu said, "There's no free lunch in the world." The secretary smiled and said, "Returning to the family is not talking about a deal." Jiang Xiu smiled and said, "There's always a price." The secretary smiled and nodded. "You're worthy of being a member of the Jiang family. You're a smart person, so I won't beat around the bush. Your grandfather doesn't have a good relationship with your father. If you want to return to the family, your grandfather has a condition. That is, you have to draw a clear line between you and your parents." Even though Jiang Xiu was prepared when he heard it, the anger in his heart couldn't help but burst out. "You want me to cut off my relationship with my father?" The secretary nodded and said helplessly, "I know it's hard for you, but whether you want to be Jiang Yi's grandson or Jiang Yishan's son, it's up to you. However, the path of your life is completely different. You have to think about it yourself." Jiang Xiu said, "Go back and tell him that no one cares about his status. The so-called elder of the nation, in my eyes, is worthless. 12 years ago, when he watched my father go to prison and did nothing, we already drew a clear line between us. He wouldn't wag his tail and beg for pity like he did in his previous life. He also didn't want to be humiliated by the Jiang family. He didn't want his existence to be just a descendant of the Jiang family." The secretary looked at Jiang Xiu in disbelief. "You're going to give up the glory and wealth that's at your fingertips? You have to think clearly. Grandpa never gives a second chance. Once your father leaves home, he can't come back." Jiang Xiu said, "It's not that my father can't go back. It's that my father doesn't want to go back. Also, if I want glory and wealth, I don't need the Jiang family. It's just as easy." Chapter 146. Secretary Yi sighed helplessly and shook his head gently. He seemed to feel sorry for Jiang Xiu's decision. He said, "You still don't realize what kind of opportunity you have missed." Jiang Xiu had already stood up and walked out without looking back. Secretary Yi said, "This is very similar to Jiang Yi." The person beside him said, "Secretary Yi, are we just going to let it go like this?" Secretary Yi pondered for a moment and finally shook his head. Jiang Xiu and the little princess of the Nangong family are engaged. The old master needs the Nangong family. Marriage is the most stable contract. Jiang Xiu must return to the Jiang family. The person beside him said, "But he doesn't agree." Secretary Yi said, "He will give in. He is just a child. He doesn't know what power means." When Jiang Xiu returned to the dormitory, another student from the dormitory had also returned. His name was Zheng Luan. He was dressed very fashionably and was quite handsome. Unlike the other two, he even brought a girl with him. They didn't know. He had just hit on her when school started. It was only the first day of school. Zhou Jin and Zhang Yiwei had completely upgraded Zheng Luan to an idol. It was not a big deal to hit on a girl. The main point was that this girl was quite beautiful. This depended on effort. Tonight, our archaeology department will have a freshman welcome party. Brothers, do well and strive for the happiness of your first year in university, Zhou Jin said. Forget it. There aren't many girls in the archaeology department. Zheng Luan continued, yes, the ratio of men to women in our archaeology department is seriously imbalanced. There are more men than women. Look at my wife in the foreign languages department. There are many beautiful girls. Hearing this, the eyes of the horny students lit up. Jiang Xiu, do you have a girlfriend? Jiang Xiu shook his head. He didn't have a girlfriend, but he had 3 fiancées. He also had a wife from his previous life and a dancer. It can't be. Forget about those 2 animals. How can you not have a girlfriend? Jiang Xiu's bearing and elegance made him the school hunk. And this was because he was deliberately keeping a low profile. Once he really revealed his godlike perfect appearance, it would definitely be earth-shattering. When Jiang Xiu chatted with them, it was as if he had returned to his university days in his previous life. It was just that his classmates were not the same as before, but it felt very similar. The boys gathered together to talk about girls. At that time, Jiang Xiu liked to brag about Cheng Lingsu's photos, but no one believed that Cheng Lingsu was his fiancée. It made him feel very shabby. My family used to run a fruit stall. We were poor, so no girls were interested in us. When the surrounding students heard this, they all had a look of realization. Then why did you choose the archaeology department? Archaeology is very expensive. Archaeologists had to go out often, and most archaeologists loved antiques. Antiques were very expensive things. Jiang Xiu said. My family's situation is better now, so they asked me to choose archaeology. That's right. Brother, you don't look like someone who wants to be poor. Little did they know that in his previous life, Jiang Xiu had been poor his whole life. Even Cheng Lingran had suffered with him and was abused by him. Zheng Luan said, Honey, your best friend is quite pretty. Introduce her to my brother. Okay. Zheng Luan's girlfriend was called Lu Li. She was cute and knew how to talk. Then let's go early. We're going to play at the venue tonight. Let's go together. Don't go to welcome the new students. If we're late, someone will snatch her away. Jiang Xiu wanted to refuse. If he wanted to be in a relationship, he would not have rejected Yi Bing. He was already used to loneliness and liked to be tortured by pain. He was not willing to give his feelings, but Zheng Luan took the initiative to pull Jiang Xiu out. Hurry, that girl is really pretty. You don't know that the first day of university is the most important. Let's conquer the territory first. Zhou Jin and Zhang Yiwei were stunned in the room. Hey, what about us? It was as if a cold, mournful wind had blown past them. Zhou Jin said sadly. Just because I'm ugly, I don't deserve to have a girlfriend? Zhang Yiwei said with a pained expression. Zhou Jin, I'm very unhappy that you said that about yourself. He immediately distanced himself from the word ugly. Zheng Luan took out his car keys. It was a big Mercedes-Benz. Driving a Mercedes-Benz in his first year of university was a big Mercedes-Benz that was worth millions. His family background was obvious. It was no wonder that Yi Rongfen was attracted to him. In this day and age, there were only 3 ways to flirt with girls. Money, money, and more money. Sitting in the car, Lu Lili took out her phone and said, I'll call her out. 3 girls came as soon as they arrived. They were all dressed up and had makeup on their faces. They wore provocative clothes, especially the girl in the middle. She had an online celebrity face, a tall figure, and was very hot. The group of girls got into the car and drove directly to the nightclub. Jiang Xiu thought that since he couldn't cultivate in the dormitory anyway, since he was pulled out by Zheng Luan, he might as well go with the flow. After entering the nightclub, the girls were high. Jiang Xiu didn't know how these people got into Imperial Capital University. They were all nightclub hangers. One look, and he could tell that they were all veterans. The girl that she wanted to introduce to Jiang Xiu was called Yi Rong. She was the online celebrity. Lu Lili said something to her on the dance floor, and she came out. Seeing Jiang Xiu sitting alone on the side, she sat opposite him and chatted with Jiang Xiu. I'm Yi Rong. What about you? Jiang Xiu. Yi Rong said. I heard that you've never had a girlfriend before? She meets my requirements and her appearance is passable. However, I have some requirements for my boyfriend. He has to be rich. His family's annual income is in the hundreds of thousands. He can't go out and spend my money, right? Jiang Xiu said. My family's annual income is in the tens of thousands. Yi Rong frowned and said, Aren't you from the archaeology department? Jiang Xiu said, I'm interested in archaeology, but that doesn't mean that my family is rich. Yi Rong was a little disappointed. Her gaze swept over Jiang Xiu's face. She was actually quite attracted to Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu had a mysterious aura about him that was quite attractive to girls. Moreover, he was admitted to Imperial Capital University through proper means. He could be considered to have some talent. Plus, he had never had a girlfriend before. It was a pity. She was a little hesitant. Her best friend had introduced Jiang Xiu because she saw that he had good conditions. Jiang Xiu lowered his head and ate alone. Yi Rong was still trying to sound him out. However, Jiang Xiu seemed to be ignoring her. Yi Rong couldn't help but frown. A great beauty like her was in front of him, talking to him, and this was his attitude. What the hell was this? At this moment, a young man in his early 20s walked over and leaned against Yi Rong. Beauty, let me treat you to a glass of wine. Yi Rong's figure and appearance were definitely top-notch in the nightclub. It was easy for her to attract bees and butterflies. "I'm accompanying a friend," the young man said. "What friend?" "Boyfriend, is that okay?" The young man looked at Jiang Xiu disdainfully. "There's not even a decent bottle of wine on the table." He was dressed in branded clothes and his watch was very dazzling. He was holding a bottle of wine that cost more than 30,000 yuan. It was obvious that he was rich. "You look like a student. Are you still studying?" "What school?" Jiang Xiu said. "Imperial Capital University." The young man said, "If you know what's good for you, get out of the way. Otherwise, you'll have to crawl out of this place today." Jiang Xiu couldn't help but want to laugh. He really couldn't keep a low profile. If he kept a low profile, any Tom, Dick, or Harry would bully him. His eyes gradually turned cold. "Scram, or I'll make you crawl out. F***ck, you're fighting with your brother, aren't you?" Before he could finish the word, the young man's whole body was slapped by Jiang Xiu. The spiritual cultivation directly hit him, and directly knocked out 2 of his front teeth. "Brat, wait for me, brother Long, brother Long." More than a dozen people at their table surrounded them. With a bang, 2 of them directly smashed the bottom of the beer bottle, revealing the sharp glass. They were fierce and looked like they were going to stab someone. F***ck, you just touched my brother. Yi Rong was so scared that her face turned pale. Jiang Xiu looked at these people indifferently. A place like the nightclub was not a place to be. A person stood out from the side. It was the person who was driving for Secretary Yi during the day. He stood in front of Jiang Xiu, took out his phone and handed it to Jiang Xiu. "Phone." It turned out that he had been following him all the way. Then he turned around and looked at the group of ferocious people with disdain in his eyes. Secretary Ye's voice came from the other end of the phone. "I heard that you were playing in a nightclub and got into trouble? You called for help, right? It's useless to call for help. How dare you make a move on my territory?" The bodyguard walked over casually and whispered something to the leader. That group of people's expressions changed drastically. Those who were holding beer bottles dropped them directly. Little ones have eyes but failed to recognize empty tie. They all ran away with a grunt. He took the phone and left. Yi Rong looked at Jiang Xiu in shock. "You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.